Chapter 146. Beside the waterfall. Lai Gu had not returned yet. Yi Hua and Qinya, who was flushed red, walked out of the tent together. Qinya covered her pretty face with her hands, and she almost didn't have the face to see anyone. Didn't I just leave you hanging for a few days? How can there be such a vengeful person who is so aggressive? Your figure is getting better and better. Yi Hua said with a smile, then went back to fishing. Towards this kind of teasing, what else could Qinya do? I can only hope that the heavens will send down divine power to smack Yi Hua's butt and let him know how formidable I am. Looking at the smile on his honor's face, Wei Chang felt very happy as well. His honor is becoming more and more like a human. Congratulations on your honor regaining your wife's heart. Easy. Yi Hua picked up the fishing rod, indicating that he would be able to easily catch Qinya. What do you mean by easy? Qinya walked over and questioned Wei Chang. Wei Chang immediately turned his head around, expressing that he did not know anything. Yi Hua tossed out his fishing rod and snorted, I said that fishing is easy. Qinya took a look at the bucket beside Yi Hua. It was really a piece of cake. I don't believe that no fish will take the bait. Not only was Lai Gu unable to catch any fishes, Yi Hua, who was his honor, was also the same. However, Yi Hua was still able to sit still. Looking at Wei Chang, there were countless small fishes and a few big fishes. Give me the fishing rod. Qinya shouted out. The people at the back immediately sent fishing rods. He skillfully hooked up the bait and cast the fishing rod. What are you looking at? Haven't you seen me fishing before? Qinya rolled her eyes at Yi Hua. Bibi? Let's compete then. What are we betting on? Qinya was in a good mood and said tenderly. Speak. That's good. The loser has to buy breakfast for a week. Qinya raised her chin and said confidently. All right. This stupid woman still wants to win. Doesn't she know that if I, the Supreme Overlord, want to win is actually very simple? All I have to do is to slightly move my hands and feet. The corner of Wei Chang's mouth rose. His honor is even going to cheat in a bet with the madam, so he will definitely win. No, wait. He could cheat in his bet with Tang Bingyao and easily win the prize. His honor is truly brilliant. Every single action of his honor is able to benefit me greatly, and every single word of his honor contains all kinds of profound principles. His honor is becoming more and more powerful. After a long while. I'm not fishing anymore. You cheated. Qinya snorted. A loss is a loss. Yi Hua said faintly. Qinya said petulantly, next time when you cheat, can you not be so exaggerated? You have to understand balance. Equilibrium. That's right, look at the inside of your bucket. You have been fishing for the entire morning and there is still not a single fish in your bucket. On the other hand, after fishing with me for half an hour, my bucket was completely filled. This cheating is way too obvious. If you were to control the number of fish that we have together, in the end, you would be able to win with a small advantage. At that time, no one would know that you were cheating. You are so stupid. Qinya stretched out her finger and poked Yi Hua's forehead. Logically speaking, Yi Hua would definitely fly into a rage. However, he didn't, because Yi Hua had figured out a problem. This problem had even appeared in the 7 deadly sins in the past, and after Qinya explained it to him, Yi Hua immediately understood the problem. Leveling was the work of a boorish man. A wise man could control a boorish man. Yi Hua stretched out his hand and pinched onto Qinya's face. All right, I will buy it for you. Humph, humph, this is more like it. Quickly remove your spell, I still want to fish. Qinya laughed tenderly. I feel that Yi Hua's temper is much better right now. After a long while, Yi Hua said faintly, a certain someone's ability to act cool has not changed at all. You must have cheated again. Then, what is the reason for me to cheat? Yi Hua lit up a cigarette and asked. Qinya pouted her mouth, isn't it because you want to see me make a fool of myself? I'm not that bored. Yi Hua's index finger slightly moved, and the shoal of fishes under the water began swimming freely again. All right, Yi Hua, am just that bored. Wei Chang, who was at the side, memorized every single action of his honor. The more he thought about it, the more astonished he became. This is too profound. I feel that I and Xiao Tang will be able to do that very soon. Boss, I am back. Lai Gu could be seen carrying Wen Xia, who was unconscious, and walking out from the forest at the side. After placing Wen Xia into his tent, Lai Gu ran over to fish happily. After sitting for a while, Lai Gu felt that the atmosphere wasn't right and asked puzzledly, "What's wrong? How many hours have you been gone for?" Wei Chang asked. "Not that long, just a few hours." Lai Gu said indifferently. "Seems like today can be considered to be rather short." Yihua turned his head around and looked towards Qinya. Qinya immediately knew what Yihua was thinking about, and she immediately punched towards Yihua. Bai Xiaozhen walked over to the tent and checked on Wen Xia's injuries. Bai Xiaozhen and Tang Wei continued to take care of the food. "Xiao Tang, you take care of this place first, I will be back very soon," Yihua said gravely. "All right, Sister Iran." After saying that, Yihua disappeared, because she felt that there were some small flies that came over to disturb the boss's rest. A few minutes later, Yihua came back, and not even a strand of his hair floated out. Yihua and the others naturally felt that Yihua came back, and he said to Lai Gu and Wei Chang, "Both of you did well. Thank you for your praise, boss." "Thank you for your praise, boss." Qinya was confused. "I don't understand what they are talking about. Is this a code word?" The sky gradually darkened, and everyone sat on the chairs and began enjoying the delicacies. Meanwhile, Yihua stood up and raised his wine cup. Everyone didn't dare to be negligent and immediately stood up. Of course, this included the four maids as well. Among them, Wen Xia was extremely shy. The redness on her face had yet to fade away. Yihua said faintly, "It has been a long time since I came out. I am very happy this time. Cheers." Boss being happy is our happiness. Other than Qinya, everyone shouted out in unison. This made Qinya feel like she was an outsider. After sitting down, Yihua said to Qinya, "Weren't you curious about the so-called cultivation world? Today, I will let you take a look." Without waiting for Qinya to reply, Yihua waved his hand, and a light blue halo appeared above the dining table. Just like a holographic image, many people appeared in the holographic image, and every single one of them had an excited expression on their face. Yihua said faintly, "Everyone, let's eat while watching." Qinya stared at the holographic image without blinking, completely unable to care about eating. Yihua didn't stop her. It is time for Qinya to come into contact with the cultivation world. However, I have to do it slowly. I'm afraid that she won't be able to accept it. However, other than Qinya, Tang Wei was also attracted by the holographic image. Those three celebrities were still alright, they were eating while watching. As for Yihua, Wei Chang, and Lai Gu, they didn't really care about the holographic image. Perhaps, the three of them would only take a look at the holographic image when the little skeleton appears. At a place that was 20 kilometers away from where Yihua was, a huge mountain was basically flattened, and there were all kinds of excavators placed around the mountain. At the center of the mountain, there was a hole that had a diameter of 20 meters, and the hole was connected to the underground. Standing at the side of the hole were Wang Debao, Zhou Xinran, Zhi Anyun, Guang Tianlu, Hai Daixi, Che Zhishuan, Yang Yi, Gu Zheng, and Cloud Sect's new sect master, Sun Yi. She was Sun Fang's junior sister. What they wanted was only the ancient godly item, and they didn't have any thoughts about those treasures. "It's out! It's out! It's out!" The people inside the hole could be heard letting out excited cheers, and at this moment, everyone's heart was in their throats. What is the ancient godly item that appeared this time? Sword? Armor? And it's even an artifact. Chapter 147. Long and City's wealthy merchant Yusi hurriedly ran over and said, "Alliance Master Hai, what do you think?" "Yusi, take the treasures and leave." Hai Daisi's gaze was fixed on the white jade coffin. As long as he could obtain this ancient godly item, the special ability world would no longer need to be afraid of the cultivation world. Hai Dicey could almost see the rise of the Esper world. UC and a few other rich merchants immediately left. There was going to be a fight soon, so it was better for ordinary people to leave as soon as possible. The ordinary people quickly retreated, but at this time, countless people appeared in the air and on the ground. They stood behind their leaders, and tens of thousands of people surrounded the white jade coffin. A great battle was about to break out. Wang Debao stood out and said with a smile, "How are we going to split this ancient godly item?" "Of course not," Zhua Xian Ran of the Zhua family said calmly. The pavilion master of Traceless Pavilion, Gai Zheng, laughed out loud. "How about rock paper scissors? I'm quite knowledgeable about it." "Huh, childish. I know a new way to play fight the landlord. Why don't we have a showdown to prevent blood from flowing like a river?" Dry Zen Sect's Che Zhishuan shouted. Cloud Sect's new sect master, Sun Yi, said with a tender voice, "Everyone, please calm down. I feel that all ancient godly items have their own consciousness, and they will definitely choose their own master." Ji Anyan of the Ji family adjusted his glasses and sneered, "What right does a woman who has slept with all the elders have to speak?" Sun Yi's gaze turned cold. "Watch your mouth." The Guang clan's clan head, Guang Tianlu, who had been silent all this while, said indifferently, "If you don't sleep with the elders, would you be able to ascend to the position so quickly?" "How dare you? Our sect master is not someone you can slander." Cloud Sect's disciples shouted loudly, all of them drawing their swords. Sunny smiled faintly and said, "There's no proof for your words. It seems like my Cloud Sect has something to say. In that case, we can only fight with our true strength." Wang Debao spread out his hands, "Let's fight then. Fight until there is only one clan left, and the ancient godly item will be his." The few big shots nodded their heads. How could there be no bloodshed when snatching an ancient godly item? Just as the few parties were preparing to start fighting, a lump of black void appeared in the middle of the battlefield. Death Mage could be seen walking out with a scythe in his hand and a cigar in his mouth. There was also a woman hugging onto him. Everyone present was dumbfounded. Sun Fang, who was in Death Mage's embrace, was also stupefied. 1 minute ago. In the rented apartment. Death Mage had already charged his phone fully, just in case his phone ran out of battery while he was playing. He did not want to top up his balance for the time being. The cigar had also been prepared, it was time to set off. But before he left, he still had to ask Baidu how to make a woman fall madly in love with a skeleton. However, the search failed. Let's replace the skeleton with a man. As expected, a lot of answers appeared, and Death Mage felt that none of them were suitable for him. He had to have meat first. A hero saving a damsel in distress? She is too ugly, subtly showing off to win the heart of a beauty. This could be considered. GGG, Imperial Translation, ugly woman, I'm bringing you out to show off. Sun Fang was so tired from crying that she fell asleep. She opened her red and swollen eyes and immediately got up to attack. Even Sun Fang, who possessed spiritual power, was not Death Mage's opponent, let alone Sun Fang, who did not possess any spiritual power. Reaching out, he summoned Dark Void and stepped inside. That's what happened a minute ago. The southern girl's eyes were red as she leaned against a skeleton, and her hands seemed to be beating the skeleton's chest. How could such a scene not cause one's imagination to run wild? The tens of thousands of people who were present immediately started whispering to each other. TSK, 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 this Cloud Sect master sure is licentious, she really did it with a skeleton. Does the skeleton even have one? Look at that girl, she even started crying. The big one was done by the skeleton, and the small one was done by the elder. So this Cloud Sect is a den of lust. That's right, I originally thought that Sect Master Sun was framed, but from the looks of it, her taste is indeed unique. Humph, what do you all know? This is called bone-hugging legs. Do you know who this black robe is? The black robe that is fighting against Xiao Yi. Otherwise, do you think that Sun Fang would serve him? F***K, there is such a thing, This woman is indeed licentious enough. She even pretended to be a saintess in the past. Tsk, tisk. Sun Fang's originally red face gradually became deathly pale. Although they were speaking very softly, their words still entered into her ears. Sun Yi could be seen walking a few steps forward and saying with a smile, "Senior sister, why did you suddenly appear here? It can't be that you have a backer now, so you want to come and snatch me, right?" The big shots who had been secretly in love with Sun Fang completely gave up. Just based on the scene just now, their goddess must have definitely been pleasured to the heavens by the skeleton. Filthy pervert. Qing Lei sec master said gravely, "Sun Fang, I have misjudged you. I didn't expect that you would abandon yourself and become a female slave of a skeleton. Sun Fang, why did you have to do this? In the past, you said that you wouldn't look for a man in your entire life, but now, you, sigh." Hai Daisy lamented bitterly, and tears of regret flowed out from his eyes. Dry Zen sec master Che Zhishuan said faintly, "Sun Fang indeed didn't look for a man, what she looked for was a skeleton." When Che Zhishuan said those words, everyone laughed. Sun Fang had a bewildered look on her face as she pushed Death Mage away and took a few steps forward woodenly. "You all have misunderstood, it isn't what you all think." Sun Fang roared loudly. "Why is everyone misunderstanding me? How can I possibly be together with a skeleton? I want to take revenge." Traceless Pavilion's Gai Zheng said faintly, "Sun Fang, you disappoint me too much. I didn't expect that you are this kind of woman. You truly threw away the face of our cultivation world. Sec Master Sun, quickly go back to your daddy skeleton's embrace." Daddy skeleton's fingers are very long, but they are too thin. "My fingers are just right for you, do you want them or not?" Those disciples immediately started using their taunting skills. Sun Fang clenched her fists tightly, and upon seeing that, Death Mage immediately released the seal on Sun Fang. Boom! Sun Fang's body could be seen emitting a bright light that soared straight into the sky, lighting up everything within a radius of a mile. Everyone was stupefied. She actually broke through at this time. A purple longsword condensed in Sun Fang's hand, and light immediately shot out in all directions. "Why aren't you all willing to believe me? Why?" Sun Fang roared towards the sky, then casually waved the purple longsword in her hand. A purple crescent-shaped sword chi pierced through the sky and slashed towards the crowd of people. The sword chi slashed out a deep ravine, and within the ravine, severed limbs were all from those people who were mocking her just now. A red light flashed past Death Mage's eyes. "This woman is very savage. No wonder his honor wanted her to fall madly in love with me, that way, I would be able to make use of her. His honor is truly formidable." Sun Yi's expression sunk as she shouted out loudly, "Senior Marshal's sister has fallen into the demonic path, kill her." Sure enough, following Sun Yi's shout, all of Cloud Sect's disciples rushed towards the former sect master. Meanwhile, the other powers that were at the side also started making their move, and several tens of thousands of people started attacking a weak and small woman. Sun Fang slowly put down the long sword in her hand and closed her beautiful eyes. Death is the best release. After waiting for a long time, the pain that Sun Fang imagined didn't come. When Sun Fang opened her eyes, a black robe appeared in front of Sun Fang. Sun Fang was holding onto his scythe, and all of the people in the surroundings were sent flying away by the scythe. Why? Why is it that in the end, it is still my enemy who came to save me? And my family members that I used to be in love with? Chapter 148. Everyone didn't think the black robe would leave so easily. They all thought he would help Sun Fang. Sua Xian Ran was very annoyed. Sun Fang killed all his people just now. Just as he was about to take revenge, the person disappeared. Don't you think so? Wang Dabao chuckled. Alright, let's open the coffin first. Yes, let's open the coffin first. It won't be too late to snatch it then. Hai Daisy laughed. However, everyone held their breaths. Just what kind of ancient godly item was inside the coffin? Yun Sek sent out 4 disciples to open the coffin. Those 4 disciples were extremely nervous. Coffin. There must be someone inside. And the ancient godly item was inside the coffin. Maybe it was the guardian of the ancient godly item. Now that the coffin was opened, what if the corpse came back to life? Hurry up. Sunny shouted coldly. Dilly-dallying. The 4 disciples didn't dare to waste any more time. They stood at the 4 corners of the coffin, took a deep breath and channeled their energy. Zzz. The white jade coffin emitted a heart-wrenching sound, and no one dared to breathe too loudly. When the coffin lid was opened, the 4 disciples were shocked. A 7 to 8-year-old little girl laid inside. Her hair was tied into 2 ponytails and she was wearing a beautiful princess dress. Though her eyes were closed, she looked very cute. Her baby fat face made people want to touch it. But no matter how attractive she was, it wasn't as important as the thing in the little girl's hands. Ancient godly item. Yun Sek's disciples' faces darkened. They were the first to snatch it. Hai Dicey humphed. He waved his hands and used wind magic. The 4 people from Yun sect were blown into the sky and turned into 4 stars. Sect leader Sun, good plan. Gu Zhang's eyes were filled with anger. Sunny scolded him for being an idiot and squeezed out a smile. It's inevitable that there will be a few traitors in our sect. On the side, Wang Dabao was discussing something with the other 3 patriarchs. It wasn't anything good. Che Zhishuan lifted the coffin up with one hand. It stood upright and faced everyone. Seeing the person and the item inside the coffin, everyone gasped. It was a cute little loli. But no matter how cute she was, she couldn't be as cute as the item in her hands. 9 Demons Punishing Tower. Che Zhishuan's gaze froze and mumbled. Everyone, including Wang Dabao, was shocked when they heard that. Is this the legendary 9 Demons Punishment Tower? Zhou Xinran exclaimed as he stared at the tower in the little loli's hands. The pagoda in the little loli's hand wasn't very big. It was about the size of an adult's palm and had 9 levels. The pagoda was ink black, and if one looked closely, they would see that each level was emitting a black fog that surrounded it. Yang Yi looked at the 9 demons Xing pagoda and muttered, "It is rumored that countless ancient godly items were dropped during the Great War of Gods and Demons. However, the ancient godly items that have appeared since ancient times have always represented justice. This time, it is actually a demonic creature. 9 Demons Punishing Tower. Unbelievable. Legend has it that once this pagoda appears, blood will flow like a river." Gu Jing frowned, and his tone was filled with hesitation. He didn't know whether he should snatch it or not. Sunny snorted and said, "Who cares if it's a demon or a god? As long as it's an ancient godly item, it's fine. If you guys don't want it, I want it." As soon as she finished speaking, Sun Yi's delicate body leaped up and she took the initiative to snatch it. Hai Dicey laughed disdainfully, condensing a large fireball with one hand and throwing it out. Sunny pulled out her sword. Insignificant skill. The sword easily destroyed the large fireball. However, at this moment, Yang Yi attacked from the side. Sun Yi hurriedly defended, but was still kicked away by Yang Yi. Luckily, she didn't roll on the ground, or else she would have lost a lot of face. "Yang Yi. How dare you sneak attack me?" Sun Yi frowned and questioned in a low voice. Hai Dicey and Yang Yi slowly walked to the center and nodded at each other. Then, they said, "This thing is inauspicious. Burying it underground is the best choice." Guang Tianlu shouted, "Alliance leader Hai, sect leader Yang, shouldn't we wait for it to be buried so that you can take it for yourselves?" Yang Yi shouted seriously, "Everyone. This demonic pagoda bewitches people's hearts. It is rumored that even the gods have been bewitched by it." "That's right. This 9 Demons Punishment Tower imprisons the souls of ancient demonic beasts. The higher it is, the more ferocious it is. The one imprisoned at the top is even a demon king. At that time, it won't be you controlling the pagoda, but the pagoda controlling you." Hi Dicey shouted angrily. However, this kind of advice didn't make them afraid. Instead, they wanted to obtain this pagoda. Wang Debao raised his head and asked loudly, "How do the two of you know so much?" "Humph, how would an outsider like you know our clan's secrets?" Yang Yi said disdainfully. Swa Xian Ran cracked his neck. "I heard it from the grapevine. You just want to take it for yourself." As soon as he finished speaking, Swa Xian Ran suddenly summoned his armor and a long green blade appeared in his right hand. Instantly, he was fully armed and emitted a terrifying amount of spiritual energy. Not only Swa Xian Ran, but Wang Debao also summoned his equipment. Ji Anyan didn't fully arm himself. Instead, he took out a book and muttered a few words. Instantly, a huge flaming beast appeared. Roar! The huge beast let out an angry roar that shook the heavens and earth. Guang Tianlu took out 3 cards and threw them out. The 3 cards glowed with a white light and turned into 3 dipper wolves. Each dipper wolf was stepping on green flames. It was extremely strange. It was rare for the heads of the 4 great clans of the south to make a move. This caused everyone in the cultivation world to gasp in surprise. As expected of the leaders of the clans. Even so, it seemed like both sides were still clamoring and didn't dare to make a move. If they did, blood would flow like a river. Just as everyone was hesitating, the 9 demons punishing pagoda in the coffin suddenly left their hands and floated in the air. Everyone's eyes were staring at the 9 demons punishing pagoda in the air, their eyeballs almost popping out of their sockets. Instantly, the 9 demons punishing pagoda charged towards Sun Yi. Sun Yi was overjoyed and caught it. "This ancient godly item belongs to me, Sun Yi." Wang Debao shouted, "Kill! Kill! Kill!" The scene instantly became chaotic. Fighting started instantly. Not far away, Sky Emperor watched everything with a confident smile on his face. "Kill! Kill to your heart's content. The 9 demons punishing pagoda is mine." In the midst of the battle, the disciples of the 2 sects chatted as they fought. The whole battle was probably still going on even after everyone else died. Don't you think it's strange? What's strange? Pay attention to your expression and show some killing intent. Don't let them see through you. Look at the little lowly in the coffin. This ancient godly item has been buried for at least 1,000 years. So what? Look at that little lowly, she is even wearing a lace princess dress and a pair of dazzling diamond high heels. Were all people from 10,000 years ago so fashionable? Hearing you say it like that, it is indeed strange. Beside the waterfall, Wei Chang and Lai Gu's expressions were a bit strange, while Yihua's expression was still as indifferent as before. The little lowly in the coffin is truly pitiful, dying at such a young age. Qingye couldn't help but say. Only now did I know that the television didn't lie. For the sake of a treasure, people were willing to kill each other. Chapter 149. Qingye looked at the little lowly in the coffin and said, "That's right, she is so cute, it is such a pity that she died." Wei Chang and Lai Gu took a look at each other and revealed a helpless expression. "Stop looking, the dishes are getting cold," Yihua warned. "This woman is already mesmerized by the scene. Stop messing around, let me see the result. There are so many people fighting over that tower, Yihua, why don't you go and fight over it?" Qingye asked curiously. Yihua lit up his cigarette and said faintly, "What is there to fight over for trash?" Qingye rolled her eyes at Yihua, "Look at you, you're acting cool after smoking is acting up again." Sigh, Yihua couldn't help but stretch out his hand and pinched that smooth little face, "Eat your food." Humph, although Qingye started eating, her gaze was still on the scene. The others had already finished eating and were currently looking at the result. Yihua leaned on the chair and smoked while looking at the little lowly in the coffin. The scene was extremely tragic. Out of the tens of thousands of people, only 1,000 were left. Although the big shots didn't die, they were injured. Right now, the 9-demon punishment tower was like a hot potato, whoever took it would be beaten up. This caused the ancient godly item to be thrown onto the ground like a piece of scrap metal. Boom boom boom. Under the bombardment from the cultivation world, the fire beast fell onto the ground. Ji Anyan coughed out a mouthful of blood, and the family members immediately went up to support him. Everyone, I will be leaving first. Ji Anyan held on to his chest. Summoning the fire beast consumed too much of his energy. I didn't expect that the cultivation world's weaklings would be so strong. It will take at least a year for me to recover my strength. Wang Debao's expression sunk. Ji Anyan, you are leaving just like that. Wang Debao, farewell. Wang Debao almost coughed out a mouthful of blood. Sue your ass. Scum. The cultivation world is indeed a sect that has existed for thousands of years, their foundation is endless. Families that have existed for tens of years are unable to withstand their bombardment. Wang Debao's gaze became serious. I'm afraid that the ancient godly item is going to fall into the hands of the cultivation world. Emperor Tsang, who was watching the battle, was already getting restless. He just had to wait a little longer. Now that one of them had left, the various patriarchs were already unable to withstand the attacks from the cultivation world. Very soon, it would turn into an internal strife in the cultivation world. At that time, while they were fighting to the death, he would be able to sit back and reap the benefits. Wouldn't that be great? In a corner of the field, 2 disciples were still fighting. The people around them had all fallen, leaving only the 2 of them alive. This seemed a little fake. You or me? Let's fall together. If we continue to pretend, we'll be exposed. All right. Pour it out together. The 2 of them seemed to be talking as they flew backwards. However, one of them landed on a corpse. Puff. Brother, be gentle. F***ck, brother, you're pretending to be dead too. Stop talking. Play dead. However, not far away from them, the 9 demons punishing pagoda that no one wanted suddenly rose into the sky and flew into the distance. The people who were fighting were shocked and immediately followed him out. Emperor Tsang's heart sank. Seeing a large number of people flying over, could it be that he had been exposed? Unexpectedly, when a black shadow appeared, Grey Emperor was overjoyed. He caught it in his hand and felt a familiar smell. People from the north. Che Zhishuan shouted and a few poisons appeared in his hand. It was one thing for him to snatch it from the south, but the people from the north were here too. What was this? At this moment, the people who were fighting seemed to be united as they attacked Emperor Tsang's group. The 3 people behind Emperor Tsang were so scared that they peed their pants. They didn't have a good grasp of the plot at all. It was a complete collapse. They couldn't care less about the contract. They just wanted to run first. Emperor Tsang didn't care about this at all. His goal was to get the 9 demons punishing pagoda in his hands. Now that he had achieved it, what else did he need them for? Who are you? Sunny pointed her sword at Emperor Tsang and shouted. Emperor Tsang raised the 9 demons punishing pagoda and shouted, I am Emperor Tsang. Everyone was stunned. They had never heard of such a strange name. Emperor Tsang? 4 words and it sounded so strange. Could he be Master Tsang's man? Emperor Tsang had a cold smile on his face. Come and worship me. Now that the 9 demons punishing pagoda is in my hands, who can defeat me? As long as I release the vengeful spirits in the 9 demons punishing pagoda, all of you will die. 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 However, just as Emperor Tsang was about to show off his might, the southern expert in front of him flew away. Stupefied, Emperor Tsang was stunned. He raised his head and looked at his hand. The 9 demons punishing pagoda had disappeared. An unprecedented rage erupted in Emperor Tsang's heart. Boom! With Emperor Tsang at the center, a shockwave spread out in all directions. The shockwave immediately resonated with the heavens and earth. Meanwhile, Emperor Tsang transformed into a lump of black fog and chased after the shockwave. The 9 demons punishing pagoda belongs to me, Emperor Tsang. Don't even think of getting it. All of Emperor Tsang's plans were disrupted. Right now, he could only snatch the pagoda forcefully. Right now, at the center of the battlefield, there was a river of blood on the ground. There were still a lot of people who were still alive lying on the ground and wailing in pain. There were also a lot of people who were pretending to be dead who were observing the situation. Within the white jade coffin, the little loli who had her eyes closed suddenly opened her beautiful eyes. Her eyes were bright red, and if one were to look closely, one could see complicated black patterns within her eyes. However, when paired with her face, her eyes were truly adorable. The little loli could be seen grinning as she lightly floated out of the coffin. Soon after, she landed on the ground, and a pair of pure white heels stepped onto the blood. La la la, la la la, I am an expert in killing. The little loli's sweet melody rang out in the hell-like venue. She ran and jumped about, and the blood on the ground splattered onto her white princess dress, gradually dyeing the dress into a bright red color. The white diamond high heels that were originally white were also dyed red. Boom! Suddenly, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, and a heavy rain started pouring down. At this moment, the scene could really be described as a river of blood. La la la, la la la, where are you guys? The little loli jumped and jumped as she searched for them. The two who were pretending to be dead just now could no longer hold back the fear in their hearts, and their bodies started trembling. That little loli that was within the coffin actually woke up. What was I supposed to say? There is definitely something wrong with that little loli. Since when did the ancients wear princess dresses? Found you, a sweet voice rang out beside his ears. The man swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and his entire body was trembling as he slowly turned his head around. Although the little loli in front of him was adorable, this kind of adorableness carried a deep sense of brutality. The corner of her mouth that was slightly raised caused one's heart to stiffen. You won't be able to escape, the little loli's ponytail suddenly rose up. The man couldn't help but want to escape, but that was impossible. He could only watch as the ponytail drilled into his mouth, and he could even feel that his hair was growing crazily in his mouth, from his head to his feet. No. She is sucking my blood essence. No. No. The man's miserable screams rang out in the spacious and empty venue, and the little loli's ponytail gradually turned from black to red. Looking at the man in front of her that had already withered up, the little loli retracted her ponytail. It wasn't easy for me to think of a way, but only this many people came. Hateful, what a waste of my brain cells. The little loli puffed up her cheeks and stomped her feet. Her ponytails immediately fluttered about, and no matter if it was dead or alive, she would stab it into the man's mouth and absorb it. Those who were dead already had no feeling, and they were considered lucky. However, those who were pretending to be dead felt as if their bones were being peeled off, and they were wailing unceasingly. Chapter 150. Beside the waterfall. Chinya had already completely fainted. When both sides were fighting in full swing, one wouldn't be able to endure the feeling of dizziness. If she were to see the scene of the little loli sucking the blood of the little loli, she reckoned that she would definitely turn into a fool. Yihua hugged onto Chinya and lightly caressed onto Chinya's smooth face. A trace of an arc appeared on the corner of Yihua's mouth. The stimulation training is almost done, I have to take it slow. Boss. Lai Gu put away his usual frivolous attitude and said gravely. Yihua looked towards the night sky and said faintly, let's take a look first. In an instant, a black figure was flying towards the campsite at high speed. Yihua silently raised his head and took a look at the black figure, then lightly waved his hand. The 9 demons punishing pagoda came to a sudden stop and stopped not far away from Yihua. The black fog in the tower was very thick, as if it was showing off its strength. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws, as if it was about to charge out. A trace of red light flashed past Yihua's eyes. However, when the red light flashed, the black fog in the 9 demons punishment tower seemed to pause for a moment. After being stunned for 0.1 seconds, all of it shrank back into the tower and trembled. A mere little demon dares to clamor in front of me? If not for the fact that I still have some use for them, I would have burned them all. Right now, the 9 demons punishing pagoda was no different from ordinary decorations. In fact, it could even be said to be ugly. It was just a black iron pagoda shaped like a pagoda. The 4 maids were stunned. In order to snatch the 9 demons punishing pagoda, more than 10,000 people had died. However, when it came to the boss, they could see the disdain on his face. Even the raging pagoda had quietened down. What an enigmatic boss. Wei Cheng and Lai Gu deeply wrinkled their brows. It was not because of Tower, but rather, they were worried about how his honor was going to deal with her. Yi Hua was indeed thinking about how to deal with the situation. To kill or not to kill, it would still have to depend on the actual situation. Taking a deep breath, Yi Hua lightly waved his hand once more, and the 9 demons punishing pagoda on the table immediately flew back like a cannonball. High up in the sky not far away, Zhang Di had already caught up to the crowd, and he was even at the very front. He had even injured Hai Daisi and Che Zhishuan while he was at it, and his chances of seizing the ancient godly item had increased by a bit. Get lost if you know what's good for you. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. Even I am afraid of you. Zhang Di shouted in a low voice. Right now, he had to put on a false show of strength and take advantage of this momentum to suppress them. Otherwise, if they joined forces, it would be very difficult to deal with them. The others didn't even bother with Zhang Di and continued flying. Emperor Tsang had never been ignored like this before, and he immediately flashed in front of everyone. You don't know how to appreciate favors. You really refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Today, I will exterminate all of you. Just as Grey Emperor was about to display his might, a shocking aura came from behind him. Grey Emperor thought that someone was sneaking up on him, so he slightly dodged. Wang Debao, who was in the group, was overjoyed. It was not a hidden weapon at all. The 9 demons punishing pagoda had flown back. And it's flying towards me, haha. As expected, Wang Debao's luck has never been bad. Even if it's snatching an ancient godly item, it's still a stroke of good luck. Wang Debao caught the 9 demons punishing pagoda, and to everyone's surprise, he turned around and ran without a second thought. Seeing this, Zhou Xinran and Guang Tianlu both chose to retreat, while the other cultivators continued to chase after them. However, Grey Emperor did not move. His handsome face was filled with malevolence. Just who was it that was playing with him? Who was it? Looking back, not far away in the valley, there were traces of fire. Emperor Tsang clenched his fists tightly and an unending stream of spiritual energy erupted from his body. In an instant, the wind and clouds surged and thunder rumbled, as if the end of the world had arrived. He did not need the ancient godly item. But, the person who played with him must die. Emperor Tsang immediately flew towards the valley with an astonishing aura. Yi Hua and the others did not leave the dining table. Everyone was quietly sitting on the table, seemingly waiting for something. Wei Cheng and Lai Gu were a little abnormal, while the 4 maids were rather indifferent. As for Yi Hua, who was carrying Qinya in his embrace, he would either pinch her face or pinch her nose. In any case, he was just bullying her in various ways. Boom! A figure descended from the sky and created a huge splash, causing the ground to tremble. Beep, 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 the alarms of the 2 Qians rang out. Emperor Tsang looked at the people who were camping in front of him and revealed a look of doubt. Isn't that man the owner of the bar? There's also that security guard and that young man. There are also 4 people who are dressed in maid attire. What are they doing here? Thinking back to the black robe that appeared at the very beginning, Emperor Tsang seemed to have thought of something. We are just bait, and the black robe might be lying in ambush nearby. But so what? I, Emperor Tsang, can kill them with just a flick of my fingers. On the other hand, these women are all top grade, it would be a pity for them to die. Yi Hua didn't even look at Emperor Tsang, who was walking over and was still pinching Qinya's face. Wei Cheng let out a breath. One of you, go and deal with them. The eyes of the four maids shone. Right now, even Tang Wei has fallen. Not only is she not afraid, she even has the desire to fight. Emperor Tsang looked at the four maids who stood up and walked to the side and whispered to each other. Soon after, he heard their sweet voices. Rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors. "Ha, I won," Bai Xiaojun shouted out happily and felt very embarrassed. The other three women pouted their mouths. This is a chance for me to show off. Not only can I show off in front of men, I can also show off in front of the boss. What kind of glory is this? I wonder when I will have to wait for the next time. Bai Xiaojun placed her hands on her abdomen and slowly walked to the front of Emperor Tsang. Then, she said shyly, "Hello, I am your opponent." Emperor Tsang looked as if he had received a critical hit of 10,000 damage. His entire being was sinister and terrifying. They actually used rock, paper, scissors to decide who would go on stage. The main point was the women. And they even came over to greet you. Damn it, this isn't good. Tonight, my dignity was already trampled on twice. And yet, when I came here, I was humiliated again. And I was even humiliated by a weak woman. To actually disregard my existence, don't blame me for being ruthless. Bai Xiaojun appeared to be very embarrassed. Seeing that Emperor Tsang's face was twitching, Bai Xiaojun thought that Emperor Tsang was sick. Just as the two were preparing to make their move, a sweet singing voice rang out from the forest. "Little rabbit, be obedient, open the door, quickly open the door, I want." Hee. Lai Gu's gaze became serious. "Xiaojun, come back." Bai Xiaojun turned her head around and took a look at the man confusedly, then sighed and walked back. Emperor Tsang did not pay attention to Bai Xiaojun and looked at the shadow in the forest. As the singing voice got closer and closer, the shadow finally appeared. Emperor Tsang's gaze was filled with astonishment. Isn't this little loli the person inside the coffin? Why did she come out? The little loli took a glance at the coffin, and her red pupils became even more dazzling. "Little rabbits, you all have been hiding here, causing me to search for you all for so long. I don't even want to move anymore, I'm so tired." The little loli fanned herself with her little hands. This action of hers was truly adorable. Emperor Tsang's expression distorted. The biggest humiliation of my entire life is tonight. Pretending to be mysterious. Emperor Tsang could be seen aiming his palms towards the little loli, and a black light could be seen gushing out from his body, causing the ground to immediately cave in. "Destroy you, yumming." Chapter 151. Emperor Tsang retracted his palms and stared ahead. The dust gradually dissipated, revealing a gigantic semicircular chasm in front of him. It was as though a gigantic machine had excavated a mountain range. Emperor Tsang's gaze changed from indifference to calmness, then gradually changed to shock, and finally revealed a horrified expression. Looking at that black shadow, Emperor Tsang found it hard to believe. Shattering Yu Yumming was one of his ultimate moves, and no one had ever been able to withstand it. Not to mention being unscathed. But now, the little loli's pure white princess dress was spotless. Even her smile didn't change. Her two ponytails fluttered in the wind. The little loli covered her mouth and giggled, "Oh, hee, you're amazing." The four maids who were watching the battle were also stunned. Just who was this little loli? However, Yi Hua and the others appeared to be very calm. Sky Emperor's breathing quickened. The girl in front of him wasn't a little loli at all. She was a monster. As expected, the guardians of the ancient godly items were all abnormal existences. A wise man does not fight when the odds are against him. I will go and snatch the ancient godly equipment first. Sky Emperor did not hesitate, he turned and ran. The current him didn't care about his face at all. This little freak was completely unscathed under his finishing move, so his strength was definitely formidable. He might as well leave it to those people from Leisure Bar to deal with him, and it could be considered as using someone else to do his dirty work. The little loli smiled wickedly. Little bunny wants to run? That's not cute at all. The two ponytails shot out in an instant, and the escaping Sangdi turned pale with fright. Unexpectedly, his left leg was entangled by the ponytails. Gray the Arch condensed a long saber in his hand and ruthlessly chopped down. Clang! The sound of metal clashing rang out. Sangdi looked at the broken saber in his hand and revealed a look of fear. This was impossible. The ponytail was like a venomous snake. In an instant, it wrapped itself around Emperor Tsang's leg and pulled fiercely. Bang! Sangdi's entire body smashed down like a cannonball, creating a huge splash and forming a huge pit. In the pit, Sangdi's face was filled with panic. His entire body had been entangled by the ponytail, and no matter how he struggled, it was of no use. However, another ponytail slowly stretched out. Sangdi stared at that strand of hair with a panicked expression, feeling even more terrified. Those hairs were actually small mouths with sharp teeth. No. No. Don't come over. Sky Emperor was completely flustered, but no one could save him now. The ponytail instantly pierced into Sangdi's mouth, spreading all over his body, sucking up the delicious blood essence. Only to see that Sky Emperor's body was withering at a speed that the naked eye could see. In less than 10 seconds, only his skeleton and outer layer of skin were left. No one would be able to recognize that he was the famous Sky Emperor. And even though Emperor Tsang died, he didn't understand many things. The little loli licked her bright red lips, so delicious, much better than those, retracting her ponytail. The little loli bounced over to a place not far away from Yi Hua and said with a slight smile, "Those are all little rabbits. You guys are the big tigers. Don't run away like little rabbits. If not, I will be very angry." Yi Hua lightly caressed Qinya, who was in his embrace, then looked at the little loli who was not far away from him and asked faintly, "What is your name?" The little loli pouted and poked her chin with her index finger. After thinking for a long time, she said, I'm not telling you." "Yi Zizi." Yi Hua shouted gravely. Little Lolita's scarlet eyes were suddenly startled. She suddenly jumped back, and the smile on her face immediately disappeared. She asked coldly, "Who are you? Why do you know me?" Yi Hua stared at the little loli's every movement and even the minute expression on her face, then shouted coldly, "Yi Zizi, do you know the consequences of lying to me?" The little loli grinned and shook her ponytail. "Although I don't know why you know me, but you guys are really delicious, impudent." Impudent. Wei Chang and Lai Gu shouted out, and a burst of killing intent erupted out from their bodies. The little loli spread out her hands and had a look of disdain on her face. She even took out a small mirror and looked at herself to see if her hairstyle had changed or not. Wei Chang and Lai Gu could clearly feel that his honor was really angry, and the two hurriedly said, "Boss, let us do it." Yi Hua knew what Wei Chang and Lai Gu were thinking. They wanted to protect her. That's right, Wei Chang and Lai Gu indeed wanted to protect the little loli. If they were to take action, the little loli would definitely not die, but if they were to let his honor take action, the little loli would most likely die. Wei Chang and Lai Gu felt that his honor was just joking in the past. How could it be possible for the seven sins to betray his honor? However, looking at the current situation, it was no different from betraying his honor. Although in the past, she was everyone's joy, and even when she took on a human's name, she still had the same surname as his honor, and even went so far as to give his honor a nickname, Big Bones. Within the seven sins, only she, Yi Zizi, dared to address his honor as Big Bones. However, the current her was no longer the Yi Zizi from back then. Even if that was the case, Wei Chang and Lai Gu found it hard to believe what was happening in front of their eyes. Yi Hua took a deep breath, and his thoughts went back to a long time ago. He remembered that back then, Yi Zizi was still very small, just like a little doll. Back then, Yi Zizi was being surrounded by humans, and when I and the others passed by this place, we killed the humans. Originally, we were going to kill Yi Zizi, but one of the seven sins could see that Yi Zizi was not a human, and thus, he spared Yi Zizi's life. Even now, Yi Hua could still remember that back then, Yi Zizi's eyes were scarlet red, and she had a look of not wanting to admit defeat. The facts proved that in the future, Yizizi would become an indispensable character within the Seven Sins. Wei Chang only ate living humans, while Yizizi didn't even let the dead off. However, she had a bad personality, and that was that she was too lazy. If she could lie down, she would definitely not sit down. I really don't know where she learned this bad habit from. From what happened today, it could be seen that Yizizi didn't want to go to the Seven Sins one by one, and instead, she wanted to use an ancient godly item to lure the Seven Sins over and capture all of them in one go. Looking at that familiar face, the final scene appeared in Yihua's mind. Yizizi was surrounded and attacked by 3 overlords, and in the end, she fell into Yihua's embrace. The words that she said back then were still resounding in Yihua's mind. He remembered that back then, Yizizi's entire body was covered in blood, and she didn't even have the strength to raise her hand. However, that pair of scarlet-red eyes of hers was still leaking out unwillingness. Big Bones, Zizi doesn't want to die, Zizi wants to play with you, Zizi wants to compete with the gluttonous monster, Zizi still wants to ride the big bone dragon, Zizi wants to be together with you all, Big Bones. Zizi is so cold, so cold. Sensing that Yizizi's body was gradually becoming stiff, Yihua revealed the pain of humanity for the first time, and Yihua's painful howls resounded throughout the entire battlefield. Yizizi, the first of the 7 sins to die in battle, back then, everyone went crazy. Even if they had to exchange injuries for injuries, they still wanted to kill those 3 overlords. She was indeed exactly the same as Yizizi, everything was the same, but in the end, it was just an empty shell, and the soul had already changed. Yihua wouldn't allow anyone to taint the Yizizi from back then. Even if it was just an empty shell. Chapter 152. Wei Chang and Lai Gu turned pale with fright and shouted out involuntarily, "Your Honor." When the 4 maids heard how Wei Chang and Lai Gu addressed him, their heads were filled with doubt. Yihua's gaze turned cold, and Wei Chang and Lai Gu immediately lowered their heads. After placing Qingye into the tent, Yizizi tidied up Qingye's hair and sighed. Walking out of the tent, Yizizi stood 5 meters away from Yizizi. Wei Chang and Lai Gu revealed a nervous expression, not knowing what exactly his honor was going to do to Yizizi. Yihua took out a cigarette case, took out a cigarette and lit it up. With his brows slightly wrinkled, he said, "It has been a long time since I last fought." Yizizi stared at the man in front of her, and a trace of doubt appeared in her heart. She felt that he was a little familiar, but she couldn't recall where she had seen him. But no matter what, he was still delicious food. "Hee, you are the most pretentious person I have ever seen," Yizizi said with a smile, revealing cute dimples on her cheeks. Yihua laughed lightly, "Your guts are truly getting bigger and bigger." Humph, I have a lot of guts." Yizizi even gestured, looking very cute. Yizizi's actions and tone are still the same as before. What exactly is going on? Suddenly, Yizizi's scarlet eyes became strange, as if they were rotating. Then, Yizizi exclaimed, "Wow, you're a big bone." The cigarette in Yihua's hand immediately broke and fell beside his leather shoes. With a bit of surprise, Yihua said, "Big bone." He remembered that Yizizi used to call him that in the past. Back then, he was still a skeleton. Even after being lectured several times, Yizizi still didn't change her way of addressing him. "I didn't expect your true body to be Big Bone." Yizizi was slightly surprised. She then looked to the other side. A monster and a bone dragon. Things were getting interesting. Yihua let out a sigh. I thought that Yizizi had remembered something, but it turns out that her pair of eyes had seen through my true form. Yizizi's eyes were filled with excitement. "What a cute big bone. How about you be my pet? I won't suck you." The corner of Yihua's mouth twitched slightly, and Lai Gu, who was at the side, seemed to have thought of the past, and he felt gloomy as well. Lai Gu remembered that back then, Yizizi was very mischievous, and furthermore, she also had a problem with aesthetics. Yizizi would praise his honor for being handsome every day, and expressed that she also wanted a skeleton as a pet. But his honor refused to give it to Yizizi, and in the end, Yizizi came to look for trouble with Lai Gu and even wanted to ride on Yizizi's back then. Not being able to ride on Ligu was one of Yizizi's biggest regrets before she died. That will depend on whether you have the ability or not. Alright then, I'll go easy on you. A true battle was about to break out, and Yizizi also became serious. Although she sounded relaxed, she could faintly sense that the other party was very powerful. It was the same for the other two, and as for the other 4 women, they were negligible. Pavilion Master, it's there. All of a sudden, a black crowd surged over. There were at least 3,000 people. They were the northern forces that followed Emperor Tsang here. Originally, he was in too much of a hurry when he escaped and lost contact with Emperor Tsang. Now, he had no idea where Emperor Tsang had gone. He thought that it would be better for him to just return to avoid any more accidents. However, the pavilion master of the Extreme Will Pavilion and Fengxing subordinates had reported to him, so he decided to come to this stronghold to take a look. The Summer Workshops Shujinhai and the Phoenix King Pavilions Man Kai also came over to take a look as a form of respect for Hifeng. 3,000 people descended and occupied half of the empty space in the small valley. The 3 big shots immediately saw Emperor Tsang, who had been sucked dry. However, the 3 of them only took a glance at Emperor Tsang before shifting their gazes away. After all, with Emperor Tsang's current appearance, even if his mother came over, she wouldn't be able to recognize him. Because Yizizi's back was facing everyone, the 3 big shots only felt that Yizizi looked familiar. Yi Hua, on the other hand, was facing Yizizi, and the 3 big shots felt that Yizizi looked really stylish. There were also 2 men and 4 women beside Yizizi, and there were even tents beside Yizizi. From the looks of it, Yizizi's taste is rather heavy. Also, what is the meaning of this little loli who is wearing a princess dress? Looking at the two's posture, it seems like they are preparing to fight. Man Kai hated people who bullied little girls the most. How can you be like this, to even bully little girls? After speaking, Man Kai walked towards Yizizi with an evil smile on the corner of his mouth. Yizizi silently lit up a cigarette. Man Kai patted onto Yizizi's shoulder, then said with a smile, "Little girl, don't be afraid, Big Brother is here. If you have any difficulties, you can just tell Big Brother." Big Brother really? Yizizi turned around with a smile. Man Kai's pupils grew bigger and bigger. Isn't this the fucking little loli in the coffin? In the beginning, I was still sighing. A strand of hair quietly drilled into the dumbstruck Man Kai's mouth. In just a few seconds, Man Kai turned into a dried corpse. However, the strand of hair didn't come out and supported Man Kai's corpse. This caused the people behind to think that Man Kai was whispering to the little loli. "Tower Master Man, that should be enough." Hifeng frowned and shouted out. "With so many disciples watching, even if you don't care about your face, I still care about it." Seeing that Man Kai still didn't have any reaction, everyone couldn't help but raise their vigilance. Shu Zhenhai shouted out loudly, "Tower Master Man. Enough is enough. Don't throw away the face of your Phoenix King Pavilion." The disciples of the Phoenix King Pavilion felt extremely awkward. The Tower Master's illness is acting up again. Yizizi used the strand of hair to control Man Kai and slowly turned around. The dried-up Man Kai could be seen stretching out his hands and making a peace sign. Meanwhile, Yizizi's head turned 180 degrees and shouted out sweetly. Also, everyone sucked in a mouthful of cold air and took a step back. At the moment of imminent peril, Hifeng and Shu Zhenhai immediately shouted out, "Retreat! Retreat! Retreat!" Everyone knew of Man Kai's strength. For Man Kai to be able to kill Man Kai without making a sound, Man Kai's strength was definitely not ordinary. The people that were sent here must have been sucked dry. Hateful little white rabbit, trying to run again, Yizizi puffed up her cheeks and said angrily. Tens of thousands of strands of hair quickly grew longer, causing people to shiver. Snap! Right at this moment, a finger snap echoed in the valley. Yizizi went into a daze and slowly turned her head back. Yi Hua was smoking a cigarette and his right hand was slightly raised. Yizizi's eyes focused. A circular red barrier immediately appeared around her body. Z. The circular barrier seemed to be withstanding some kind of powerful attack as it trembled slightly. Soon after, cracks appeared on the barrier like a spider web. Yizizi looked at the barrier curiously. However, the 3,000 people that were running away instantly turned into dust, as if they were never there in the first place. The walls of the valley were also shaved off by an invisible force. The pitiful Emperor Tsang originally had a corpse, but right now, not even a trace of his corpse was left. This was a finger snap that was compressed again and again. It was the first time Yihua tested it, and he felt that the power of the finger snap was pretty good. It was able to cause fatal damage to those people, but it did not have any effect on Yizizi. Chapter 153. A trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Yihua's mouth. He lightly waved his left hand, and the two instantly disappeared from the valley. Wei Chang looked at the two that disappeared, then turned his head around and looked at Lai Gu. "Gluttonous monster, think of a way," Lai Gu said anxiously. He was about to reveal his true form. Wei Chang looked at the place where the two disappeared and took a deep breath. The reason why his honor didn't look for them is because he wanted to see their attitude. But Zizi is different. We watched Zizi grow up. Lai Gu was like an ant on a hot pot. He was afraid that his honor would get angry and kill Zizi. How could Wei Chang not understand that there is a good side to human nature, but there is also a bad side to human nature? Suspicion. His honor is different from the past. He won't be as unreasonable as he was back then. Wei Chang sighed and said, then walked to the small stool and picked up the fishing rod. However, he didn't throw the fishing rod out. It could be seen that Wei Chang was actually very worried. Lai Gu stomped his feet heavily on the ground, causing the ground to tremble. Crushed stones fell from the mountain, and the birds in the forest immediately flew up into the sky. The two of them were helpless right now and could only wait for the result. Forcefully interfering would only make the result worse. On the other side, Yizizi looked around curiously. The scorching sun was high up in the sky, and there were a lot of dilapidated houses. The wood of the houses had already decayed. "Big Bone, why did you bring me here?" Yizizi asked curiously. She felt that the two of them didn't seem like they were going to fight at all. Yihua smoked his cigarette and walked to the side of a rotten wood. He lightly touched the rotten wood with his fingertip, and the rotten wood immediately turned into broken pieces. "You were here at that time." Yihua breathed out a mouthful of smoke and said faintly. Yizizi pouted her mouth. "What was I doing here?" Yihua didn't answer and said calmly, "You are very stubborn. I originally wanted to kill you, but you are very lucky." Bragging. Yizizi snorted, then tilted her head 45 degrees, looking very cute. "However, you were still saved and became one of my subordinates." Yizizi spread out her hands. "All right, you are really bragging to the heavens. If you can still remember now, I can let bygones be bygones." Yihua's tone changed and emitted out an eerie killing intent. Yizizi went silent for a while, then suddenly, of a look as if she remembered of everything, she said, "I remember coming." Yihua paused for a moment. "Really? Huh. Big Bone, you are so gullible." Yizizi stuck out her tongue and made a funny face. This angered Yihua quite a bit, and a powerful killing intent immediately exploded out from his entire body. The killing intent seethed like huge waves in the sea, causing the surrounding air to seem as if it was going to solidify, causing people to feel suffocated. The sharp aura caused Yizizi's ponytail to dance wildly. However, Yizizi was not afraid at all. An unprecedented excitement appeared on her adorable face. "Big Bone is amazing, I can do it too." A killing intent that did not lose out to Yihua could be seen erupting out from Yizizi's body. Although the two killing intents were formless, when they clashed together, a qualitative change occurred. Suddenly, two murderous auras materialized and spread out in a circle. However, this killing intent was like a sickle, cutting through everything. There was not a single meter-tall tree in a 10-mile radius. Countless creatures were cut in half. Yizizi giggled, and a bright red spear instantly appeared in her hands. This spear was not ordinary. The spearhead was as long as the spear body, and the spearhead was scarlet red, emitting out a faint layer of blood mist. Meanwhile, the body of the spear was like a flowing river of blood, and one could even hear the cries of aggrieved souls, causing people to tremble with fear. Immediately afterward, a set of white crystal armor appeared on Yizizi's body as well. The armor covered 99% of Yizizi's body, and even her eyes were the same. As for the remaining 1%, it was her ponytail that was revealed. Various kinds of runes were imprinted on the armor, and every rune represented a type of defense, which was unimaginable. "Big Bone, are you going to fight with me empty-handed?" Yizizi's sweet voice rang out from within the armor. Yihua flicked away the cigarette in his hand. Yihua could be heard saying calmly, "Blood Stirrup Solitary Illumination, its biggest specialty is that during battle, it can suck the opponent's blood essence, even if it didn't touch the opponent's body. And that faint red mist is even more fatal, it replaced your hair, and unknowingly, the enemy would be able to inhale it, causing them to hallucinate. And this is only the first stage, you should know the second stage even without me saying it. Moon Scroll Profound Armor, it can be said to be a perfect grade defense, but it is a pity that you have to poke 2 holes to expose your hair, and these 2 holes are the flaws." Yizizi, who was within the armor, had a stiff expression. She found it hard to believe. Why does he know all of my secrets? Impossible. How do you know all of these? Yizizi's tone suddenly changed. It was no longer the sweet lowly voice, it was as if a ghost was crying. Along with Yizizi's roar, it once again formed a sound wave that swept towards the surroundings. Yihua looked at Yizizi, who was in an unstable state of mind, and said faintly, "Because all of these were given to you by me." "Impossible. You lied to me." Yizizi, who was within the armor, had a sinister expression. "Yihua knew all of my secrets, and Yizizi knew what this meant." Yihua sneered, then his body gradually degenerated, and in a blink of an eye, his original body was revealed. A skeleton. Compared to Death Mage was slightly taller by a bit. His shoulder width was the same as well, and his bone structure was the same as well. However, his skull was extremely similar. It could be seen that Death Mage was also a very handsome person in the past. Yihua stretched out his 5 fingers and took a look at them. "It has been a long time since I last looked at my main body, and I am a bit not used to it. Now, your Blood Stirrup Solitary Illumination is useless against me. At most, it's just a sharp spear. There's nothing to fear." Yizizi tightly gripped the Blood Stirrup Solitary Illumination spear in her hand. The blood mist on the spearhead increased greatly. It could be seen how indignant Yizizi was right now. "As for breaking your Moon Scroll Profound Armor, I have many ways. For example," Yihua waved his hand, and thousands of miniaturized weapons could be seen revolving around his body. As for Yihua, it was as if he was playing with a tablet computer. All of a sudden, Yihua chose one of them and grabbed onto it. A purple long blade could be seen appearing in Yihua's hand. The entire body of the blade was engraved with golden stripes, and an unknown golden liquid was flowing out from the tip of the blade. After the golden liquid fell onto the blade, the golden liquid knew how to flow on its own, as if the golden liquid had its own consciousness. This gold flame dark blade is enough to break your crescent mystic armor. As for the Blood Stirrup Solitary Illumination in your hands." Yihua could be seen waving his hand once again. Thousands of armors could be seen appearing around Yihua's body. Yihua chose one of the armors, and the skeleton immediately condensed out. Although this secret feather armor is not a top-notch item, it is still able to suppress the blood chi in your body. If you match it with... Immediately, a shield condensed out on Yihua's left hand. If you match it with this serene heavy shield, it will be able to suppress your blood chi to the lowest point. As expected. The Blood Stirrup Solitary Illumination spear, which was originally filled with blood chi, gradually weakened, and only traces of blood mist could be seen coming out from it. "Although I am not good at strength, it is still enough to deal with you." Chapter 154. Thinking back to the past, he had been a fool. He had put aside some top-tier equipment and insisted on using his own body to defeat his enemies. After all these years of understanding, Yihua felt that wearing equipment was also a kind of advantage. Of course. Every mage had the heart of a warrior. Death Mage was also the same. Suddenly, cracks began appearing on the ground beneath Yizizi's feet, and even the air seemed to be trembling. Yihua's gaze immediately became serious. Yizizi covered his helmet with one hand and suddenly burst into laughter. You underestimate me, Yizizi. Big Bone, you've really made me angry. Boom. Yizizi's aura completely erupted. The blood stirrups in her hand shone brighter than before. Looks like your strength has also increased. That's good. Let's fight. Yihua raised up the heavy shield in his hand and placed the gold flame dark blade on top of the shield, then slightly tilted his body. Don't look at how Yizizi was a little lowly, her explosive power was the most ferocious among the 7 deadly sins. At that time, Yihua didn't dare to take Yizizi's spear head on, but right now, it was different. Yihua had the confidence that he could win against Yizizi with his weak power. Die. Yizizi let out a ghostly cry and leapt high into the air. Yihua raised his head slightly and saw that the sky behind Yizizi was filled with blood mist. Countless sinister faces of vengeful spirits appeared behind Yizizi, and their miserable cries could be heard. I have said it before. Your moves are useless against me, I am completely able to suppress you. Yihua raised his heavy shield high up. Bang! A loud sound suddenly rang out between the heavens and the earth. The originally clear sky was filled with dark clouds, and it was soon dyed red by the color of blood. It was as if the entire world had fallen into blood. The collision of the weapons created a huge shockwave, and everything around it evaporated. This was just a simple collision. Blood stirrup's solitary illumination could be seen emitting out a blood mist, which instantly enveloped Yihua. However, Yihua was just a skeleton, so where would he get the blood essence from? Yihua's main body was able to restrain Yizizi. I have said it before, your moves are useless against me. Yihua's gaze turned cold, and the gold flame dark blade that was in his hand slashed towards Yizizi while carrying along a berserk aura. Yizizi snorted and grabbed the blade with her left hand. Yihua's brows wrinkled. Yizizi's strength has far surpassed my estimation. From the looks of it, after coming back to life, she has become stronger as well, and is no longer the Yizizi from back then. The strength is not bad. This is indeed a good saber, but it can't break my moon scroll mystic armor. Yizizi snorted disdainfully. Although Yihua was shocked by Yizizi's strength, it was not to the extent of being defeated. I have said it before, this blade is used to break your moon scroll profound armor. Yihua said coldly. What a joke. However, as soon as she finished speaking, Yizizi saw the golden liquid flowing into her hand. Yizizi immediately let go of the golden flame dark blade and tried to fling the disgusting liquid away, but to no avail. Pay attention to your feet. Yihua reminded. Yizizi looked and saw that another golden liquid had wrapped around her leg. Yizizi, if you had listened to me back then and didn't poke those 2 holes, you wouldn't have died, but you didn't listen. Yihua shouted out coldly. Back then, the human Yizizi was also able to find Yizizi's flaw and kill her with a single strike. Yizizi scurried up and down, and countless holes were smashed open on the ground. However, those 2 golden liquid were just like glue, sticking tightly onto Yizizi's back and slowly crawling towards the holes on the moon scroll profound armor. Get away from me, oh! Yizizi, who was inside the armor, suddenly let out a ghastly howl. Yihua looked on silently. The moon scroll profound armor was only Yizizi's first line of defense, and her real body was the second line of defense. However, back then, the 3 Yizizi didn't even give Yizizi the chance to become her real body. Of course, I am also able to do it right now, but the 2 golden liquid finally crawled into the holes after much difficulty. Yizizi, who was still scurrying around just a moment ago, immediately stopped moving, as if her body was frozen. You! Just what is this thing? Yizizi asked while standing there foolishly. Yihua said calmly, the golden flame dark blade's formidability doesn't lie in itself, rather, it lies in those two golden liquid. Those two golden liquid are able to fuse into one's blood and spread a virus, causing one to lose their battle prowess. At that time, your moon scroll profound armor will only be a decoration. So that's how it is, Big Bone. You are powerful, but I am not willing to give up. Yizizi's tone was getting weaker and weaker, as if she was going to collapse at any moment. Yihua let out a breath, just surrender. Yizizi laughed bitterly, then collapsed onto the ground with unwillingness. A light breeze blew past, and the broken ground was just like the surface of the moon. Potholes could be seen everywhere, causing one to exclaim in admiration. Yihua, who was dressed in godly equipment, did not move and continued to look at Yizizi, who had collapsed onto the ground. After a long while, was it fun? Yizizi, who had collapsed onto the ground, paused for a moment, but she still did not have any reaction. You are still the same as before, Yihua said gravely. Yizizi's personality did not change. Then what exactly happened to her? Yizizi, who had collapsed onto the ground, could be seen immediately standing up and snorted, Big Bone, you are very boring. Yihua sighed. Seems like I have still underestimated Yizizi's ability. After coming back to life, she became even more valiant. Just like me, aren't Wei Cheng and Lai Gu the same as well? Yihua kept the golden flame dark blade in his hand and summoned out a sharp sword. Dark Abyss Cold Soul. The cold air that was emitted out from the sword caused Yizizi to go into a daze. Big Bone, you are shameless. Yihua snorted coldly, then leaped high into the air. I am already giving you face by fighting you in close combat. Sword Chi rushed towards Yizizi like a raging ocean wave, bringing along a power that could crush everything in the world. The color of the sky suddenly changed. Yizizi, who was within the armor, focused her gaze, then raised up the blood stirrup lone illumination spear in her hand, and the red light on the spear's body increased by a bit. This was a battle of strength against strength. However, the reason why Yihua chose to fight like this was because of their old friendship, and of course, the heart of a warrior was also unavoidable. The moment the two forces collided with each other, the two forces immediately exploded. Boundless power rose from the ground and broke through the layer of blood-red clouds. The terrifying airflow swirled around violently, forming a terrifying astral wind. Big Bone, your strength is indeed not bad, but compared to me, it is still a bit lacking. Yizizi laughed. Yihua laughed lightly, is that so? I will let you see what is called strength. Let's wait and see. The two could be seen starting a battle of strength. This kind of scene was just like the end of the world. The ground was trembling, and even the sky had hidden itself deep within the clouds. Boom, boom, boom. Waves of loud sounds reverberated in the world, and the battle between the two had entered into a white-hot stage. The more Yizizi fought, the more excited she became, and her strength continued to rise. Coupled with the moon scroll profound armor, she could be said to be invincible in close combat. Chapter 155. In an instant. The two of them instantly separated from each other. Yihua looked at Yizizi calmly. Meanwhile, Yizizi's breathing was a bit chaotic, but her battle prowess was still extraordinary. Yizizi, seeing that you have such strength, I am rather happy. Yihua lightly waved his hand, and the godly equipment that he was wearing instantly disappeared, revealing his true form. Yizizi calmed her breathing and said in a sweet voice, Big Bone, are you going to admit defeat? Yihua's empty eye sockets immediately shone with a red light. Yizizi, you don't understand my true strength at all. Alright, you are starting to act cool again. Wait till I break your bones, let's see if you are still going to act cool then. Yizizi snorted coldly, then pierced towards the space between Yihua's eyebrows. As for Yihua, he just stood at his original spot and did not take any defensive measures. Blood Stirrup's solitary illumination blossomed with an incomparably powerful red light. Yizizi was planning to grab onto Yihua's loophole and end the battle with a single strike. The idea is good, but just like what Yihua said, you don't know how powerful the enemy that you are facing is. Just when the tip of the spear was about to pierce through Yihua's skull, it actually stopped abruptly. The distance between the spear and Yihua's skull was merely 1 millimeter. From this, it could be seen how strong Yihua's control ability was. Yi Zizi was stunned for a moment, and then her expression changed drastically. She wanted to pull away, but she found that she couldn't move her body. Yi Zizi, in actuality, I am able to kill you just by moving my finger. However, do you know why I didn't kill you? Yihua said lightly. Yi Zizi didn't answer. She used all her strength, but she couldn't break free from the invisible shackles. Because I can't bear to. Sky Ghost Fire. Yihua shouted out faintly. 5 purple flames appeared around Yi Zizi. Each flame intertwined with each other to form a strange fire array, and Yi Zizi was in the middle of the array. Puff! The purple fire array immediately soared into the sky. The huge round purple fire looked as if it wanted to burn the sky, and Yi Zizi was being burned by it. Ah! I'm going to kill you! Yi Zizi roared within the flames, but to no avail. Yihua seemed to be waiting for an opportunity. Suddenly, he felt that Yi Zizi, who was in the fire, had a strange movement. You are still thinking of revealing your true form and escaping. You overestimate yourself. Divine Kun Chain. Yi Zizi, who was inside the armor, had a drastic change in her expression. How is it possible that I can't even release my main body? The purple flames continued to burn Yi Zizi. The moon scroll mystic armor on her body had already turned purple, but even so, Yi Zizi's ponytails were still fluttering. Big Bone, I admit defeat. I admit defeat. Yi Zizi, who was inside the armor, could no longer endure the burning and loudly begged for mercy. However, Yihua ignored him and continued to wait. I admit defeat, what else do you want? A burst of evil aura emerged from the purple flames. Yihua lightly waved his hand, and the so-called evil aura quietly disappeared. Half an hour. 1 hour. 2 hours, you are ruthless. After finished speaking, Yi Zizi fainted. Yihua let out a sigh of relief. I have finally managed to make her faint from the fever. Alright, let's see what exactly is going on with you. He stretched out his hand, and a lamp appeared in his hand. The name of this lamp was Moonlight Candle. It was able to illuminate all unknown things and could be easily destroyed. However, it was a pity that it could only be used once, and after it was ignited, it would disappear. Furthermore, it had to be used when the target was at their weakest, otherwise, it would be completely useless. At the start, Yihua used his strength to resist against the flames because he wanted to test Yi Zizi's strength. Indeed, it was the same as what he thought. Yi Zizi's strength had indeed increased by a lot. Using Sky Ghost Fire to burn her was just to erase her consciousness so that he could use Moonlight Candle. Withdrawing his hand, Sky Ghost Fire instantly disappeared, and Yi Zizi was still under Yihua's control. Moonlight Candle slowly floated above Yi Zizi's head, and the flame emitted from the wick illuminated Yi Zizi's entire body. Yihua's gaze was fixated on Yi Zizi. I hope that this Moonlight Candle will be effective. Slowly, the candle illuminated Yi Zizi's body, as well as her various physiques. Yihua was rather familiar with these physiques, and they were considered normal. Suddenly, 3 faint seals appeared above Yi Zizi's head, forming a triangle. Judging from the shape, 2 of the seals were still missing, thus, they could not be counted as a complete seal. Yihua clenched his fists. To actually dare to place a seal on my subordinate. But Yi Zizi's ability is so strong, who is able to place a seal on her? I will ask her later. Yihua lightly tapped with his finger, and the 3 seals immediately shattered. At this moment, Moonlight Candle finished burning and disappeared from the sky. After the seals disappeared, all of the equipment on Yi Zizi's body disappeared as well. Yi Zizi, who was wearing a princess dress, slowly landed on the ground. Yihua summoned out his human form, took out a stick of cigarette, lit it up, and waited for Yi Zizi to wake up. After a long time, Yi Zizi, who was lying on the ground, rubbed her big eyes. Where is this place? So hungry. Yizizi sat up and pursed her lips. Suddenly, she saw an unfamiliar man in front of her, and the man was smoking a cigarette. So handsome, but this man has such a familiar feeling, Yizizi. Yihua shouted out gravely. Yizizi immediately recalled the battle that happened just now, and her pitiful face collapsed, and bean-sized tears immediately flowed out. Big Bone, Yizizi ran with all her might, and tears of joy fell down from the sky. Yizizi could be seen throwing herself into Yihua's embrace and crying bitterly. This is too miserable. Yizizi was just like an abandoned child. Yihua let out a sigh of relief, then patted onto Yizizi's head. Where did your imposing manner just now go? Big Bone, I know my mistake. Whoa, Big Bone, I miss you so much. Yizizi wiped her snot and tears onto Yihua's clothes. Yihua wrinkled his brows. Alright, you have to be punished for doing something wrong. Yizizi looked at Yihua pitifully, then raised her butt. Don't think that Yihua suddenly thought of spanking Yizizi, just that in the past, Yizizi often made mistakes, so Yihua could only spank her butt. Without any politeness, Yihua began to teach this mischievous subordinate a lesson. However, the fact that Yizizi was able to recover made Yihua very happy. Alright. Yizizi touched her butt, then hugged onto Yihua's neck. Big Bone, Zizi misses everyone so much. Don't cry anymore, I still have some things that I want to ask you. Yihua said gravely. Yizizi wiped away the tears at the corner of her eyes, Big Bone, ask me, I will tell you everything that I know. When did you wake up, and who placed the seal on you? Yizizi said without thinking too much. Around a year ago, Zizi woke up. At that time, there were a lot of priests who were sitting beside Zizi and chanting incantations, and there was even a magic tool placed on top of Zizi's head. When Zizi woke up, Zizi crushed the magic tool and sucked all of them in. After that, Zizi wandered around and discovered that this world is super fun. There are beautiful dresses to wear, just that, I am too weak. Big Bone, you also know that Zizi is very lazy, so Zizi thought of a method, which is to gather the more powerful people together and suck them in. Unfortunately, the ones that came were still too weak, and I didn't have enough fun. After that, I met. Your Honor, please forgive Zizi. Will Your Honor, acting coquettishly mode activated. Chapter 156. Yizizi stroked her long ponytail. Actually, Yizizi still had many abilities that she had yet to display. Unfortunately, she had been defeated just like that. Yihua let out a light sigh. Being too strong is also a kind of sin. No one is able to evoke my desire to fight, and only my subordinates are able to make me fight. Throwing everything else aside, today's fight was rather comfortable. According to Yizizi's description, she should have awakened 5 years ago. It was just that she was discovered by others, and they wanted to control her. Perhaps, even they did not know that it would take so long to cast the seal. After all, Yizizi was too powerful. Even after several years, she was only barely able to cast the third layer of the seal. Before the second layer was completed, Yizizi had already awakened. It was just that it was amazing that humans had such a magic tool. However, thinking back to those Supremes in the past, they also had many powerful magic tools. It was normal for the people of this world to have one or two. Yizizi, who was in his arms, raised her pitiful face and said with grievance, Big Bone, have you forgiven Zizi? I'll forgive you if you don't call me Big Bone. Yizizi's face fell. But I've been calling you for a long time. Then I won't forgive you. I'll change, alright? Yizizi rubbed her head against Yihua's chest and acted coquettishly. Yihua thought for a bit. Right now, Qinya still doesn't know of my identity. If I were to have another little girl as my subordinate, and furthermore, the little girl is a little lowly, wouldn't she think that I am a pervert to have even taken a little lowly as my subordinate? Based on Yizizi's personality, it was obvious that she was a follower. Even if he forced her out, he didn't know what kind of trouble she would cause. He had tried it back then, and his game had just begun. He couldn't let Yizizi ruin it. It would be better to give her an identity. Yi Zizi opened her eyes wide and looked at Yi Hua. Yi Zizi looked extremely pitiful. Call me big cousin. When there's no one around, you have to call me your honor, do you understand? He had to take this opportunity to change the way Yi Zizi addressed him. He had really indulged her too much in the past. Yi Zizi was overjoyed. Without thinking too much, she said, "Big cousin." He thought that Yi Zizi would be conflicted for a while, but he didn't expect her to be so straightforward. Yi Zizi had been in the human world for a year, so she knew that big cousin was a more intimate form of address. This was much better than big bones, so she readily agreed. Big cousin, I want to see the gluttonous monster and the big bone dragon. Yi Hua knocked onto Yi Zizi's forehead. When there is no one around, call me your honor. Also, don't call them nicknames. Yi Zizi rubbed his forehead, then said while puffing out his cheeks, Your honor, Zizi understands. Go back, Wei Chang will tell you the details. Yes, 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 let's go back. With that, the two of them disappeared from the ruins. After an unknown period of time, a figure suddenly appeared at the scene. He was wearing a purple and gold robe and had a dragon crown on his head. One look and anyone could tell that he was from a rich family. When this person arrived at the scene, he only looked around curiously. After that, he began to look around anxiously as if he had dropped some treasure. The man could be seen scratching onto his face as he muttered softly, there was clearly a notification that the red packet was right here. Why did it disappear? Did the red packet system make a mistake? Suddenly, two black figures knelt in front of the man and said respectfully, Your Majesty. This place is not suitable to stay for long. A large number of sects are currently gathering here. The man sighed helplessly. I can only look for an opportunity to come back and take a look. Not long after the man left, countless people rushed over. If Yi Hua was still here, there would be a few familiar faces among the crowd. Beside the waterfall, Wei Chang and Lai Gu sat on a small stool and waited quietly. Tang Wei was standing behind Wei Chang and massaging his shoulders, and Lai Gu was enjoying the service of his three women. Massaging his shoulders, massaging his hands, and massaging his feet. Who says that having more wives doesn't have any advantages? Why aren't they back yet? Lai Gu was a little annoyed from waiting. It has already been a few hours. If his honor wants to take care of Zizi, wouldn't it just be a matter of seconds? Could it be? A scene appeared in Lai Gu's mind. Zizi was tied up and his honor was fiercely whipping Zizi. Your boss. Wei Chang immediately stood up and shouted out. Boss. Lai Gu hurriedly stood up and shouted out. However, there was only the figure of the boss. Where did Zizi go? Could it be? Lai Gu looked at his honor in disbelief and asked blankly, Boss, where's Zizi? Yi Hua took out a stick of cigarette, then walked towards the tent and lightly puffed out a cigarette, dead. Wei Chang and Lai Gu were completely stunned, as if they were struck by lightning. They were unable to imagine that the adorable Zizi who was in the past died just like that. Lai Gu was evidently even sadder as he sat on the ground and wailed, Zizi, why are you so foolish? Don't you know how to run when you can't win? I haven't even had the chance to let you ride on me yet. Tears were flowing down Wei Chang's old face. Back then, Zizi still wanted to compete with me, but now, suddenly, Lai Gu felt that there was one more person on his shoulder and said gravely, Stop messing around, I'm not in the mood. However, even his ears were grabbed. Lai Gu immediately opened his eyes. These women are too outrageous, can't they see that I am in a bad mood? However, looking at the swaying ponytail in front of him, Lai Gu was stunned as he slowly turned his head around. Hee, big bone dragon, do you miss Zizi? Yi Zizi could be seen riding on Lai Gu's shoulder while grabbing onto Lai Gu's ears with both of her hands and said sweetly. Lai Gu didn't know how to express his joy at this moment. The expression on his face was very rich as he immediately soared into the sky. Meanwhile, Yi Zizi shouted excitedly, I finally got to ride on the big bone dragon. After flying into the clouds, Lai Gu immediately revealed his true form. Yi Zizi, who was sitting on the bone dragon's back, looked very small. Roar. Lai Gu's excited dragon roar rang out in the sky. However, quite a few people heard it and thought that they were hallucinating. And Lai Gu did not roar a second time, because Yi Hua was warning him. Not long later, the two landed on the ground. Yi Zizi pounced onto Wei Chang's embrace and hung onto him like a koala bear. Gluttonous monster, Zizi saw that you cried just now. Wei Chang laughed lightly, you saw wrongly. Hee, I didn't see wrongly, you still don't want to admit it. When are you going to compete with me? That will require boss's approval. Wei Chang rubbed onto Yi Zizi's head and laughed. Yi Zizi pursed her lips. Suddenly, she saw the four women beside her and her eyes immediately lit up. Wow, what beautiful clothes, I want to wear them too. In actuality, the four maids were still in a state of shock. Originally, they thought that this little loli was an enemy, but they didn't expect that in the end, she was actually an ally. The four maids still didn't know what was going on and appeared very respectful towards Yi Zizi. Where did you buy these clothes from? I want them too, Yi Zizi touched onto the lace skirt and asked curiously. Little loli and uniform fetish. Wei Chang explained the relationship between everyone to Lai Gu, and Yi Zizi immediately felt that it was unfair. This won't do, all of you have women, Zizi wants a woman too. Wei Chang, Lai Gu. Chapter 157. Wei Chang chuckled and said, Zizi, lower your voice. Don't disturb Madam's rest. Madam? Who is Madam? Yi Zizi asked in confusion. Lai Gu stroked onto Yi Zizi, who was only 1.2 meters tall, and said with a smile, boss's wife. Ah. Big cousin has a wife. Yi Zizi exclaimed and immediately covered her mouth. Wei Chang smiled, and, with the recent events, Madam is already pregnant. Ah. Isn't his honor just a skeleton? How could it impregnate a human? This is too mystical, I'll go take a look. After saying that, Yi Zizi trotted to the side of the tent and quietly walked in. Yi Zizi could see that his honor was carrying a human woman, and the human woman was so beautiful. Yi Zizi felt that this human woman was the most beautiful human woman that she had ever seen. Yi Hua said faintly, be quiet. Yi Zizi nodded her head, then went closer to observe for a bit, then said in a low voice, Your Honor, can I hug Madam? Be gentler. Yi Hua didn't reject Zizi, Zizi is still a child. Yi Zizi slowly crawled in between the two of them, then lightly hugged onto Qingye and buried her head into Qingye's chest. This action of Yi Zizi made Yi Hua a bit unhappy. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have let her hug onto me. However, the words that I have said are of enormous weight, not even 20 kun would be able to pull me back. Madam's embrace is so warm, so comfortable, Yi Zizi narrowed her beautiful eyes. No wonder his honor would like this human woman. The cultivation world's king of vinegar couldn't stand it anymore and said, all right, let go of me. Your honor, hug me for a while more, just a while more I beg of you. Qingye could be seen letting out a light moan, then stretching out her hand, she hugged onto Yi Zizi. Qingye had definitely mistaken Yi Zizi for Yi Hua. This infuriated the king of jealousy. Hugging a doll was one thing, but hugging a child. Still not letting go? Yi Hua shouted out lightly. Yi Zizi felt wronged and said, it's not me, it's Madam who is hugging me and not letting go. Yi Hua could only forcefully pry open Yi Zizi's arms, then push Yi Zizi away from Yi Zizi. Sure enough, Yi Hua ended up hugging onto Qingye. Your honor, you are so stingy, Yi Zizi pouted her small mouth and said. Yi Hua glared at Yi Zizi, then said in a low voice, remember to wait for me at the county town tomorrow. Okay, got it. Yi Zizi responded and left the tent. Madam's embrace was so comfortable, soft and soft. Yi Zizi said a few words to Wei Chang and left for the time being. The future is long. Yi Hua still didn't know how wrong his decision this time was. If he were to know what his little cousin would do in the future, he would definitely not be able to hold himself back from kicking her out and letting her fend for herself outside. While hugging onto the woman in his embrace, Yi Hua let out a breath. Yi Zizi doesn't like humans at all, and I didn't expect that she would fall in love with Qinya right away. From this, it could be seen that Qinya is also very unique. Looking at those tender and beautiful red lips, Yihua couldn't help but kiss onto them. So F** King soft, so F** King comfortable. Right now, it was already late at night, and Wei Chang and Lai Gu had also walked into their own tent. Not long after, Lai Gu's tent began to shake crazily. However, Lai Gu was very smart to set up a barrier so as to not disturb his honor. Wei Chang's side was not as straightforward as Lai Gu. Looking at Lai Gu's tent, Wei Chang felt very envious. "Uncle Wei, it is already so late, quickly come in and rest." Tang Wei opened up a corner of the tent and called out tenderly. Right now, Wei Chang really wanted to ask his honor for a stick of cigarette to calm himself down. "Uncle Wei?" Tang Wei shouted out with a red face. Wei Chang immediately revealed out a firm gaze. "I will do as his honor said, I will just directly push her down." Seeing that Uncle Wei was walking over, Tang Wei shyly hid into the tent. Her face was completely red, and she was extremely nervous. After entering the tent, the entire tent could be seen to be decorated with red as the theme. Looking at Tang Wei, who had her head lowered and had a bashful look on her face, Wei Chang swallowed his saliva. What should I do now? Seeing that Uncle Wei was looking at her blankly, Tang Wei lightly bit onto her lower lip, then slowly undid her clothes. Wei Chang was startled. "Tang Wei, what are you doing?" "I am taking off my clothes to sleep." Tang Wei's face was about to bleed. "Uncle Wei is so stupid, what else can I do besides taking off my clothes?" Wei Chang could be seen stretching out both of his hands. Tang Wei felt that her heart was about to jump out. Uncle Wei finally took the initiative. But Wei Chang put on Tang Wei's clothes and said with concern, "It is cold in the valley at night, it is better to wear clothes to sleep." Tang Wei, first blood, a drop of blood. Right now, there was a huge shadow in Tang Wei's heart. "Uncle Wei, can you be a bit more honest?" Wei Chang let out a breath and immediately lied down. "What should I do? How should I push Uncle Wei?" Seeing that Uncle Wei lied down, Tang Wei also lied down beside Uncle Wei, and the tent became quiet again. After a long while, Tang Wei turned over and lightly hugged onto Wei Chang. Meanwhile, Wei Chang stretched out his hand and hugged onto Tang Wei's slender waist. This time, Tang Wei felt that there was hope as she said shyly, "Uncle Wei, don't you want to?" "I want to," Wei Chang said gravely. "Then why are you still in a daze?" Tang Wei felt that she was going to dig a hole in the ground. "I have already hinted to Uncle Wei crazily, why isn't there any reaction from Uncle Wei?" Wei Chang sighed, "I want to sleep, but I really can't sleep." Puff. Double kill, double kill. Tang Wei immediately felt a wave of dizziness. "I really want to cry. Does anyone have any good ideas?" After a while, Tang Wei calmed herself down. "I don't believe that Uncle Wei doesn't understand. I have done my homework before coming here." Tang Wei slowly stretched out her slender hand and stroked onto Uncle Wei's chest. "Do you still not understand?" Wei Chang was very gratified as he laughed tenderly. "Xiao Tang, Uncle Wei isn't tired, I don't need you to massage me." Puff. Triple kill, triple kill. Uncle Wei actually feels that I am giving him a massage, my god. Why is it like this? Seems like I can only use my trump card. Tang Wei could be seen making up her mind. While stroking onto Wei Chang's chest, she let out a very alluring moan. Which man would be able to endure it? Tang Wei doesn't believe it. Wei Chang could be seen being startled as he asked with concern, "Xiao Tang, what's wrong? Is it because your respiratory tract is infected?" Puff. Quadruple kill. Tang Wei felt as if she was struck by lightning from a clear sky. Being struck by the lightning, Wei Chang said worriedly, "This valley is humid, you have to pay attention to your body, do you understand?" Tang Wei didn't speak, she was already unable to think normally. "In the past, I thought that Uncle Wei's illness was only mild, but from the looks of it, it is not just mild, it is very serious." This is an illness, I have to treat it. Right now, Tang Wei felt that she must definitely cure Uncle Wei's illness. No matter how shameless she is, she must save Uncle Wei. Tang Wei could be seen hugging onto Wei Chang's arm and said tenderly, "Uncle Wei, you can be at ease. Today is my safe period, nothing will happen to me." Wei Chang stroked onto Tang Wei's hair and said gravely, "Uncle Wei knows, with Uncle Wei here, not only today. You will be safe from today onwards." Pentakill, pentakill. Ace, your woman has already been killed by you. Tang Wei felt that Uncle Wei was incurable, oh my god. Chapter 158. Uncle Wei, I am going to sleep first, you should rest early too. Tang Wei was very hurt, being ignored by Uncle Wei. Uncle Wei went into a daze for a moment, then responded with an "oh. Why do I feel that Xiao Tang's mood is a bit low? It shouldn't be. Just now, he expressed his concern for me and also displayed his powerful strength. Why is it like this? Wasn't she supposed to be moved beyond belief? This is how idle dramas come about. With deep doubts, Wei Chang gradually fell asleep. Although there wasn't any substantial progress, at least he had taken the first step and slept together. Just that, thinking that Xiao Tang is going to start school soon, at that time, she might not be able to stay in leisure bar to work anymore. How should I solve this matter? This is really troublesome. Should I eat up the people in school? If Yi Hua knew that Wei Chang was so indecisive, he would definitely teach him a lesson. As a strong person, he should be a bit more overbearing, if not why would women listen to him? Carrying Qinya, Yi Hua took out the pajamas for Qinya to change into. Looking at her body, it was even more alluring than the first time he saw her. Every inch of her skin was emitting out a faint fragrance, and even had a beautiful luster. In any case, no one saw it, even if someone saw it, kill him to silence him. Gigi, the sun revealed itself from behind the peak of Tsang Mountain. A few rays of warm light shone onto the valley, causing people to feel a kind of sweet tiredness. Yi Hua slowly opened his eyes. Qinya, who was in his embrace, started to cry again. As expected, she is a whining monster. Yi Hua, I am hungry. Qinya, who was in her sleep, mumbled. Her beautiful eyes were reluctant to even open. If you are hungry, then get up and eat breakfast. I don't want to get up, sleeping is very comfortable. Qinya moved her body, putting on a more comfortable position. Yi Hua laughed lightly, we are not at home. Qinya slowly opened her eyes and looked around. The scene from yesterday immediately appeared in front of her eyes. You had a nightmare last night. Looking at Qinya's fearful gaze, Yi Hua said faintly. Qinya's tightly knitted brows gradually relaxed. Dream? You went to rest after eating yesterday. So it is like that, you scared me to death. Qinya patted her chest, immediately feeling that something was wrong. When did I wear pajamas? Yi Hua said, I helped you change. You are taking advantage of me again. Qinya said bashfully. Yi Hua pinched onto Baiji's tender face. Alright, after you change your clothes, come out. After eating breakfast, we will go back. After finished speaking, Yi Hua walked out of the tent. The air here is rather comfortable. Lighting up a stick of cigarette, the four maids had already woken up very early to prepare breakfast, while Wei Chang was sitting at the side of the water in a daze. Lai Gu had yet to wake up. What's wrong? Yi Hua, who was standing at the side, asked. Wei Chang was startled, then hurriedly stood up and shouted out in a low voice, Your Honor. Yi Hua puffed out a mouthful of smoke. It's still early in the morning, and you are already frowning. How could Wei Chang possibly say such a thing out? It was too shameful. Your Honor is worrying too much. Subordinate is just thinking about a problem. Oh. What are you thinking about? Wei Chang really wanted to slap himself. I have so many excuses, yet I didn't use them, and I actually said this. I am going to have to face His Honor's examination again. I hope that I can still remember the places where I drew circles in the past. Think about His Honor's actions last night. Why did His Honor give the 9 demons punishing tower to Wang de Bao and not someone else? Wei Chang was quick-witted and began speaking nonsense with a straight face. Yihua felt that this was interesting and continued listening to Wei Chang. Wei Chang let out a mouthful of smoke, then said, Wang Debao seems to be from the south, but his wife is from the north. I heard that this Wang Debao listens to everything that his wife says. By giving the ancient godly item to him, his honor is equivalent to giving it to the north. This time, the south's reputation has been tarnished, and the south will definitely send a crusade against the north. Yihua flicked away the ash from his cigarette, then revealed out a praising gaze. That's right, that's exactly what I meant. Let them fight amongst themselves, and after the fight is over, we will come out and tell them the truth. I really want to see what kind of expression those humans would reveal. To be able to toy with humans in the palm of one's hand, it truly feels great. Your honor is wise, giving them a taste of their own medicine. Yihua patted onto Wei Chang's shoulder. Not bad, you even know how to speak a few sentences now. When subordinate has nothing to do, subordinate would still read some books about humans. The corner of Yihua's mouth curved upwards. All right, go and call Lai Gu to wake up. After eating, we will go and fetch Zizi. Yes. At this time, Qinya finished changing her clothes and came out from the tent. She could be seen opening up her arms, closing her eyes and enjoying the pure air. Unexpectedly, a smell of smoke drifted over. Qinya rolled her eyes at Yihua, then went to see what they were going to eat for breakfast. Under Qinya's lead, everyone made a sumptuous breakfast. Sitting at the dining table, Yihua naturally sat at the main seat and said, After eating, we will leave. Leaving in such a hurry? Qinya seemed to have not had enough fun yet. Yihua took a bite of the bread, then said indifferently, I am going to fetch a cousin sister, she wants to enter the city to study. When the time comes, you go and make the arrangements. Oh, is that so? I will make a call and make the arrangements now. How old is your cousin sister? Middle school or high school? Qinya took out her phone and asked. Middle school or high school? Yihua looked towards Wei Chang and Lai Gu, and the latter lowered his head, expressing that he did not know. She is 8 years old. Yihua himself did not know either, because he had never studied before. Qinya thought for a while, then muttered, if she is 8 years old, she should be attending primary school, around grade 3. Yes, that's right. Yihua said. Qinya immediately gave a call to the general manager of Long and City, Lu Hang, and asked him to go and make arrangements. After all, the school was about to start soon. Yihua, when the time comes, give me your cousin's information. Qinya said. Speaking of information, Yihua felt that Zizi should be an unregistered citizen. When the time comes, I will just let that Xiao Jiu go and settle it. Okay, I'll give it to you when we get back. After dinner, everyone left the valley. To Lai Gu's women, this day and night were very exciting. Of course, Lai Gu himself was also very satisfied. However, to Wei Chang and Tang Wei, it was simply indescribable. In actuality, the person who was the happiest was still Yihua. After all, he managed to subdue Qinya. Look at the current Qinya. Qinya is currently leaning into Yihua's embrace, and Qinya is currently unable to leave Yihua's embrace. After getting on the highway, Qinya, who was lying in Yihua's embrace, asked curiously, Yihua, why didn't I hear that you have a cousin sister? Oh, long time no see. Qinya punched Yihua's fist. All right then, you are hiding everything from me. Lifting up Qinya's chin, Yihua immediately kissed onto Qinya's chin, causing Qinya to be dumbfounded. So annoying. There are still people here. Just treat them as if they are transparent. Wei Chang and Lai Gu were very hurt, especially Wei Chang. Why is it that even his honor is able to do it so easily, but I am unable to? I should take this opportunity to properly learn his honor's flirting skills. Chapter 159. In the Cayenne that was following behind, Tang Wei was a bit disappointed as she turned her head and looked outside of the car window. Tang Wei, did you do it last night? Bai Xiaozhen, who was sitting at the side, asked in a low voice. Sigh, if only I did it last night. Tang Wei shook her head, then let out a deep sigh. Thinking about how Uncle Wei acted last night, she felt both angry and funny at the same time. Iran, who was sitting at the front, also became interested. She turned her head and said with a smile, Xiao Tang, you are already dressed so sexily. Could it be that Uncle Wei did not have any reaction? Gu Gu seemed to have injected stimulants last night, and Wen Xia was even more miserable. Sure enough, Wen Xia, who was driving the car, blushed, and Bai Xiaozhen even pouted. Iran, don't say any more, look at the two of you, TSK, TSK. Iran laughed. Tang Wei let out a deep sigh again. Other people are so blessed, and yet I am worrying about this kind of thing. Forget it, let's just let nature take its course. 2 hours later, Yihua finally got off the highway and arrived at a small town. Yihua chose a remote location to put on an act for the entire time. Have we arrived? Qinya got up from Yihua's embrace and opened the car window to take a look. Yihua nodded his head and arrived at the agreed location, but Yizizi had not arrived yet. She couldn't have gone to prank me again, right? I'm a bit hungry. Qinya rubbed onto her flat stomach and said embarrassedly. She was a pregnant woman, so it was normal for her to be hungry. After all, the big ones have to eat, the small ones have to eat too. Madam, the food in this small town is rather small. Wei Cheng took a look and said. Qinya's eyes lit up, isn't there a Shaxian snack there? Let's go there. Yihua had tasted this Shaxian snack before, and it was not bad. Alright, let's treat it as lunch. Yihua approved. The appearance of two Kayans in this small town still attracted quite a bit of attention. Curious about what kind of people were sitting inside, the roadside stalls all paid attention to them. When they saw the people that got off the car, all of the male's eyes almost popped out, especially the one that was in the car at the back. He was simply about to spurt out blood. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. As celebrities, the three of them had already secretly changed their appearances before they alighted from the car. This was also done by the Lai Gu sect. It was more convenient for them to go out and play together. After all, it was more exciting outside than at home. Although the beauty in the car behind made people spurt blood, the woman in the car in front helped them stop the bleeding. It was a sacred and inviolable feeling, so beautiful that it felt unreal. But it was such a woman, that willowy waist was actually hugged by a man. God damn it. But for some reason, everyone felt that this group of people seemed to revolve around this man. It was really incomprehensible. Wasn't he just good-looking? This was really an era where looks mattered. Right now, Yihua was also contacting Yizizi. Yizizi expressed her apologies and said that she would be coming over immediately. There was no one in the snack bar in Shaxian County. The boss was sitting at the table. There was a mobile phone, dumpling wrappers, and minced meat on the table. He was watching a drama while making dumplings. Hearing the sound of the door opening, the boss looked up and was shocked. He hurriedly rubbed his hands and asked with a smile, "What would you like to eat?" Qinya looked at the menu on the wall and said faintly, "A set of steamed dumplings." Yihua, what do you want to eat? Stir-fried rice noodle, add an extra egg. Yihua said faintly. Lai Gu pursed his lips, give me a set of mixed noodles. Wei Cheng asked Tang Wei concernedly, Xiao Tang, what do you want to eat? Anything will do. Tang Wei's mood was a bit gloomy, but it was also normal. Last night, I had already hinted at Uncle Wei so crazily, but Uncle Wei did not even have any reaction. Thinking up to here, Tang Wei was greatly shocked. Does it mean that people can't get it up after reaching middle age? And Uncle Wei was embarrassed to say it out. I am too stupid, isn't this the same as rubbing salt on Uncle Wei's wound? I shouldn't be doing this, I should think of a way to help Uncle Wei nourish his body and recuperate for a bit. Then, I will go and inquire about the old prescriptions of the people and prescribe some medicine for Uncle Wei to eat. Wei Cheng was still looking at the menu, and Tang Wei, who was behind him, had already given him the title of impotence. Give me a ginseng black chicken soup then. Wei Chang said. Tang Wei had an, as expected, look on her face. Even Uncle Wei himself knows to nourish his body. My pitiful Uncle Wei has fallen into a chronic illness after reaching middle age. In the future, I have to take good care of him and not let Uncle Wei get injured again. Thinking about last night, Uncle Wei was definitely very gloomy. Last night, Wei Chang was indeed very gloomy. The four of them sat at a table, and very quickly, the steamed dumplings were served. Qinya felt that the steamed dumplings were pretty good. Yihua, does your cousin live here? Qinya asked curiously. That's right, I just want to go out and see the world. Yihua could only say this. Qinya said tenderly, girls should go out and see the world in the first place, only then would they not be cheated by bad men. This is scolding the locust tree while pointing at the mulberry tree. Wei Chang and Lai Gu really wanted to change to another table. The madam is too formidable, to the point that even his honor is speechless. Then, you have to go out and see the world more. Yihua was not someone who was easy to provoke. Qinya snorted and no longer paid attention to Yihua. You only know how to talk back, zzz. The sound of the door attracted everyone's attention. The boss who was currently working looked towards the door, and the spoon that was in his hand even dropped onto the ground. This lowly is simply asking for my life. Yizizi could be seen wearing a light blue off-shoulder princess dress. Her beautiful collarbone was faintly discernible, the butterfly knot on her waist was cute and moving, and layers upon layers of lace adorned the beautiful dress. She was wearing a big round hat on her head, and her twin ponytails were hanging very naturally behind her head. Different from yesterday, her ponytails were slightly curled up today. Seems like she might have gone to have her hair permed just now. Her pair of small hands were even wearing long gloves, and she was even holding onto a cute little umbrella. She looked just like a little loli that walked out from a two-dimensional world. Looking at Yizizi, who was dressed up like this, Yihua couldn't help but feel a bit of a headache. She is your cousin? Qinya mumbled and asked. Yihua nodded his head. I feel that she has seen more of the world than me. Qinya felt that this little loli was a princess from a European royal family. For her to be dressed up so gorgeously, it seemed as if she was going to attend a very important banquet. Yizizi was indeed thinking like that. In any case, it was her first time meeting the madam, so of course, it had to be a bit more grand. Thus, she forgot about Yihua's words. Big brother, Yizizi waved her hand excitedly, and her pair of eyes curved into the shape of a crescent moon. If it was possible, Yihua didn't want to respond. Coming. Hello, big sister-in-law, I am Yizizi. Yizizi directly ran in front of Qinya and used that lowly voice to act cute. In actuality, Qinya had never seen such a cute little loli before, but why do I feel that she looks familiar? I seem to have seen her in my dream last night. Of course, Qinya had seen Yizizi, who was lying in the coffin before, just that, Yihua said that it was a dream. If I give birth to a daughter, I will definitely dress up like this too. Yizizi, you are so cute. It was rare for Qinya to reveal a smile towards a stranger. Hee, big sister-in-law, can Zizi hug you? Chapter 160. This was the death stare of a supreme being, no, the stare of the Vinegar King. What are you hugging? Yihua shouted out coldly. In this world, I am the only one who is capable of hugging. Sure enough, Yizizi's hand that was stretched out immediately retracted back, then lowered her head, causing Qinya's heart to ache endlessly. What are you doing, yelling at a girl? Qinya glared at Yihua petulantly, then squatted down and lightly hugged onto Yizizi. Ignore him, he is the king of jealousy. Yizizi's face immediately brightened up, and with a smile on her face, she leaned into Qinya's embrace. Sister-in-law, your embrace is so warm. This little girl was too good at talking, just like Ali. Zizi is also very pretty. Cousin-in-law likes her very much. What do you like? Pay the bill and leave. Yihua was in a bad mood. Standing up, he walked to the door and lit up a cigarette. Seems like I didn't burn enough yesterday. Qinya laughed bitterly, don't care about him. Zizi will listen to big sister-in-law whatever big sister-in-law says, Zizi will do it. In the past, Zizi did not have any backing, but right now, with Qinya as her backing, Zizi's career would definitely soar. So obedient. Qinya stretched out her hand and pinched onto Zizi's little face. Wei Chang and Lai Gu were immediately startled. However, Zizi didn't react excessively. She was still smiling, which made the two of them feel relieved. They were afraid that Zizi would instantly kill the madam. Other than Yihua, Qinya was the second person who dared to pinch Zizi's face. No. Qinya was the first human who dared to pinch Zizi's face. Yihua gave a serious warning to Zizi, while Zizi expressed that it was sister-in-law who was holding her hand, and that she was being wronged. Only a fool would believe you. Half an hour ago, Qinya was still snuggling up to Yihua, and right now, Zizi was sitting in the middle of the car. Sit in the car at the back. Yihua said. Zizi immediately revealed an expression of fear, then immediately hugged onto Qinya. Pouncing onto Qinya was a matter of course. Qinya patted onto Zizi's shoulder, then said to Yihua, "Why are you being so fierce for? The one who was supposed to receive it is you, and the one who is supposed to be scolding right now is also you." Wei Chang and Lai Gu pretended not to hear anything. Lai Gu, when we reach Longban City, bring Zizi to look for a house to stay in. Yihua decided to change his way of thinking. Before even waiting for Lai Gu to reply, Qinya said unwillingly, "You are letting an 8-year-old little girl stay outside by herself. Is there any big cousin like you, 8 years old? Even if it wasn't 8,000, it would at least be 800. Sister-in-law, Zizi is scared," Zizi said pitifully. "Yihua, you don't have to argue with Yihua anymore. Yutong's room is big enough, just let Zizi and Yutong sleep in the same room." Qinya gave a suggestion that could not be opposed. But was it really okay to let two Chinibu girls sleep together? Aren't you afraid of causing a commotion? If Qinya knew about Yihua's future development, she would definitely agree to Yihua's request. Going out to live was also a kind of release. After all, a child should live independently as early as possible. Yihua glared at Qinya. "If anything happens, you settle it yourself." "Let's settle it then." Qinya snorted. "Eldest cousin-in-law, you are so good to Zizi." Zizi smiled sweetly, which melted Qinya's heart. Just that, when Qinya saw that Zizi's pupils were scarlet red, she became very puzzled. "Zizi, why are your eyes red? Did you wear cosmetic contact lenses?" Zizi blinked her beautiful eyes. "No, Zizi was born like this." Although it was rather weird, this pair of red pupils and Zizi were still quite effective. 4 p.m. in the afternoon, the group of people arrived at the entrance of Leisure Bar. Qinya brought Zizi into the bar first, while Yihua had to give a few instructions. "Do not slack in your intelligence work, report to me on time every day. Also, let Xiao Jiu go and handle Zizi's identity information." Yihua said faintly. "Yes. Yes." Yihua nodded his head, lit up a cigarette and walked into Leisure Bar. Wei Chang unbuckled his seatbelt and said, "You can go back first, I will go and send Xiao Tang off." "Gluttonous monster, what are you talking about? Send her off by car, you are even riding a bicycle to send her off." Right now, Lai Gu was very extravagant. Lai Gu could be seen opening the car door and saying, "This car is for you, don't be too stingy when chasing after a woman, sometimes, you also need to give her some face." Wei Chang went into a daze for a moment, then felt that what Lai Gu said was right, not having a car was indeed inconvenient. "I won't be polite then." Lai Gu immediately revealed out a crafty smile, then, "I will hand over the matter that your honor instructed me just now to you bye-bye." After pausing for a moment, Lai Gu added another sentence, "Grab hold of the opportunity at night. As a brother, I can only help you to this step." Wei Chang knew that Lai Gu definitely did not have good intentions by gifting a car for no reason. However, this kind of small matter can be handed over to Death Mage to take care of. After sending Xiao Tang back, I still have to go to work at night. Not long later, Tang Wei sat on the car and cried out in surprise, "Uncle Wei, why did you suddenly want to buy this car? It was definitely Lai Gu who said it again. It's convenient for me to pick you up. Wei Chang stretched out his hand and stroked onto Tang Wei's cheek. But this car is too expensive. It's fine, Uncle Wei can afford it. Wei Chang laughed and headed towards Tang Wei's residence. Lai Gu went back as well. I haven't even handed over my public allowance for today. In leisure bar. Just when Yihua walked up the stairs, he heard Qin Yutong's cry of surprise and Yizizi's cry of surprise. Pushing open Qin Yutong's door and taking a look, even Qinya went into a daze at the side. Qin Yutong could be seen wearing a level 3 helmet, a level 3 bulletproof vest, a frying pan was hanging on her butt, and she was also wearing a teacher's uniform. Yizizi's gaze was fiery, as if she had found a like-minded comrade. Brother-in-law, big sister, you two only went out for a day, and the child is already so big. Qin Yutong cried out in surprise and carried Yizizi up. This little loli is too cute. Yizizi felt that this aunt's embrace was not as warm as her sister-in-law's, but it was still rather comfortable. Woo! Aunt, you are going to suffocate me to death. Yizizi couldn't take it anymore. This aunt is too savage. Aunt. Qin Yutong immediately collapsed. Forget about being called aunt by Ali, right now, even this little loli wants to call me aunt, don't you think that I should be angry? Yutong, she is called Yizizi, she is your brother-in-law's cousin. Qinya explained. Qin Yutong's eyes lit up, why call me aunt, call me big sister, I am your sister-in-law's little sister. Since she is sister-in-law's little sister, I will give her face. Hello big sister. Mommy, this is too cute, where did you buy this princess dress from? Not bad, I bought a lot of it too, but I didn't dare to wear it, afraid that other people would say that I am a lunatic. It's alright now, we can wear it together. Yihua said faintly, 2 lunatics. Really? Zizi also has a lot of beautiful princess dresses. Zizi, do you know what cosplay is? Yizizi shook her head, indicating that she was a newbie. Come, big sister has a lot of beautiful clothes, let me share with you. Chapter 161. Qinya had originally thought that Yizizi would stick to her very much, but I didn't expect that. Yizizi would be snatched away by her younger sister. It's just a few pieces of clothing, do you think that it'll hurt or not? Yihua walked in front of Qinya and said faintly, this is just the beginning, in the future, you will have to suffer. After finished speaking, Yihua walked into the bedroom and prepared to take a bath. Qinya seemed to be able to see through why Yihua was worried. Look at that smug look on her little sister's face, as if I have a lot of beautiful clothes that you don't. Meanwhile, Zizi's eyes were shining brightly, and her face was filled with envy. Letting out a sigh, Qinya walked into the bedroom, and just happened to see that Yihua was currently changing his clothes. Originally, Qinya wanted to avoid Yihua for a while, but thinking that they were already an old couple, what was the point of avoiding Yihua? What's wrong? You're not going to seduce them anymore? Go to hell. Qinya snorted. Since you asked Yizizi to come over and live with me, you will have to be responsible for her in the future. Yihua said faintly, then walked into the bathroom. Qinya let out a deep sigh, then sat on the bedside and covered her face. Yizizi doesn't seem to be that lowly that she looks like on the surface. At this moment, in the Bai family in the far north, Bai Cixin held the 9 demons punishing tower in her hands and studied it carefully. Meanwhile, the black mist above the 9 demons punishing tower slowly wrapped around Bai Cixin's hands. Wang Debao and Bai Qi stood at the side. Honey, be careful. Wang Debao shouted worriedly. Bai Cixin shook her head and said softly, I'm fine. Don't be nervous. Sure enough, the black fog only circled around for a while before shrinking back into the tower. We have the 9 demons punishing pagoda. Our Bai family can also become an aristocratic family. Bai Cixin slowly put down the 9 demons punishing tower. Her beautiful eyes were filled with the yearning for power. Congratulations on getting your wish, big sister, Bai Qi said with a smile. Wang Debao was the same. Congratulations, my wife. Bai Cixin chuckled. Our Bai family is not the only one who has an ancient godly device, the Shao family also has one. However, there is only one spot. Sis, why don't we destroy the Shao family? Bai Qi suggested. Bai Cixin picked up the teacup, blew on it gently, and took a sip. I want to, but there are rules. Shao Yi is at his weakest right now. This is indeed a good opportunity. Wang Debao said in a deep voice, how about I go there and probe it first? There's no need for that, so as to avoid alerting the enemy. Seizing the ancient godly item and squeezing into the aristocratic families is only the first step, and our next step is not just the aristocratic families, but also the 3 big shots that restrict the aristocratic families. Speaking of the 3 tycoons, Wang Debao and Bai Qi's expressions became grave. In order to become an aristocratic family, the first thing they needed was an ancient godly item. Every 5 years, there would be a selection. Originally, the Shao family had already entered the ranks of aristocratic families, but unfortunately, another ancient godly item had appeared, causing them to have to fight for that slot. For the aristocratic families, the first reaction was that they were mysterious, but for the 3 giants above the aristocratic families, they were even more elusive. After all, no one from the 3 giants had ever appeared before. No one knew what they were capable of, where they were, or how strong they were. However, there was one thing that could be seen clearly, and that was that all of the aristocratic families were restricted by the 3 big shots. If not, they would have fought with each other a long time ago. Who didn't want to collect more ancient godly items? Thus, the 3 big shots declared that all aristocratic families could only possess one ancient godly item, and they were not allowed to participate in the worldly plundering. Those who violated this rule would be exterminated. From this point, it could be seen how big of a risk Tang Wuxuang had taken to invite Yi Shao over. Fortunately, Yi Shao left in the end. Bai Cixin put down the teacup in her hand and said faintly, "Hubby, have you transferred all of your companies over? Once this matter is out of the south, you won't be able to go there anymore." "Wife, don't worry, the headquarters in Gao Hai City is just an empty shell." Wang Debao was a little smug. Bai Cixin praised, "Hubby, not bad, you even know how to prepare for a rainy day." "Learning from my wife, I definitely have some experience." "Then, hubby, what kind of experience did you conclude this time?" Bai Cixin said with a gentle smile. Wang Debao was instantly stupefied. Even Bai Qi couldn't bear to look straight at him. "Who asked you to act cool?" Wang Debao coughed lightly and said gravely, "This time, under the wise leadership of my wife, it wasn't easy for us to obtain a great victory. If it wasn't for my wife's intelligence, how could I, your husband, be able to succeed so easily?" Bai Cixin covered her mouth and laughed lightly. "To be able to receive such a high evaluation from my husband, I, your wife, am overwhelmed by the favor. It's what I should do, it's what I should do." Wang Debao laughed mischievously. He was looking forward to the reward very much. After withdrawing her smile, Bai Cixin asked seriously, "Hubby, tell me what happened last night in detail, don't leave out any details." "All right." In the next hour, Wang Debao fully displayed his eloquence, turning himself into an undying hero, and obtained the most valuable treasure. Brother-in-law is truly amazing, to be able to deceive those few families. Bai Qi sighed. "This brother-in-law of mine looks like a simpleton, but in actuality, he is full of evil tricks." After hearing what Bai Qi said, Bai Cixin didn't say anything, and with a grave expression, she stood up. "You said that the black robe appeared at the start, and he even brought along Yunsek's sect head, Sun Fang. And in the end, he ran away for no reason?" "That's right, I am also puzzled. They suddenly appeared, and I thought that they were also after the ancient godly item, but who knew that they would run away?" Wang Debao also didn't understand what was going on. Sun Fang's reputation had already spread far and wide a few days ago, and yet, this black robe brought her out again. Making her furious. Making her hate. Could it be that the black robe wants to make her his own? Bai Cixin muttered. Big sister, you can even think of this. Bai Qi exclaimed. Wang Debao chose to remain silent, otherwise, he would have to ask more questions later on. Bai Cixin continued, even though I've never seen that black robe before, I'm sure that a powerhouse like him wouldn't do something so despicable. Someone must have slandered him, and Black Robe took advantage of this to isolate Sun Fang. This is also why Black Robe suddenly appeared. He wanted everyone to slander Sun Fang, so that Sun Fang could see her situation clearly. After hearing what Bai Cixin said, Wang Debao's expression became grave, and he let out a breath. That Black Robe is too terrifying, his thoughts are actually so meticulous. What happened to the little girl in the coffin in the end? Bai Cixin asked. Wang Debao shook his head. I don't know, at that time, I took the 9 demons punishing tower and ran away. Who would have the time to care about a corpse? Who is that Sung Di who suddenly appeared? Who knows, but he seems to be in contact with the people in the north. Wang Debao said. What about the people that you brought with you? Bai Cixin asked. I can't contact all of them. I heard that He Feng, Xu Zhenhai, and Man Kai didn't come back either. It's as if they disappeared from the world. Bai Cixin took a deep breath. Hubby, Bai Qi, I feel that this matter isn't that simple. We have to be careful right now. The forces in the south will definitely not let what happened last night go. There is going to be a tough battle soon. Bai Qi, you go and make arrangements. All right, big sister. After speaking, Bai Qi took the lead and left. What about me? Wang Debao asked with a smile. Bai Cixin slowly walked over and held onto her husband's hand, then said tenderly, Hubby has worked hard for an entire night outside, of course I have to reward you. F***K, the main show is coming. The two came to the bedroom, and Bai Cixin took a charming look at Wang Debao. Hubby, this time I bought an enhanced version of popping candy, and it's even spicy. It should taste good if you pair it with iced water. Chapter 162. Zijin City. Within Tang family's manor, Tang Wushuang was currently sitting on the sofa while trembling with fear. Behind him were his 2 wives, Quan Anrong and Mu Jia. A middle-aged man was sitting on the sofa in the middle. His hair was smooth and shiny, thick eyebrows, big eyes, tall nose bridge, and the shape of his face was even more so the golden ratio. Just that, his dressing was a bit casual, with a shirt, flowery shorts, and flip-flops. The man looked at his phone, then picked up the teacup and took a sip, and his brows slightly wrinkled. Upon seeing that, Mu Jia immediately walked forward and personally poured the tea for him. Suddenly, the man shouted out, This damned author is breaking a chapter again. It's fine if he updates slowly. He even breaks chapters every day, and he even shamelessly asks for tips, ask for recommendation votes. Wushuang. Send me a box of razor blades to this author, forget it. Directly find this author for me and ask him to update for me every day. If he doesn't update, I'll beat him to death. Tang Wushuang laughed dryly. All right, master, I'll do it immediately. The man's name was Gue Qingren. 5 years ago, he saved Tang Wushuang, who was on the verge of death, and taught him some skills. After that, Tang Wushuang returned to the city and showed off his capabilities, taking back everything that belonged to him. Gue Qingren put down his phone, then picked up the teacup again and took a sip. It has been a few years since we last met, Wushuang, your harem has increased again. It is all thanks to master. If not, how would Wushuang be able to achieve what he has today? Tang Wushuang said sincerely. He was actually rather unfamiliar with his master. His master could be said to be an existence that came and went without a trace. Woman, you have indeed achieved something, but your authority did not change at all. Master is a bit disappointed. Gue Qingren put down the teacup and took out a stick of cigarette. Tang Wushuang immediately lit up the cigarette and said, Master, disciple has already reached this stage. Disciple is also powerless. It is too difficult for disciple to climb any further. With your current mentality, it would be good if you don't drop. Gue Qingren took a puff and said disdainfully. Tang Wushuang lowered his noble head and did not have any temper in front of his master. Master can poke me to death with just a finger. The reason why Master came this time is to ask you why you didn't manage to seize the ancient godly item. The reason why Master came this time is to ask you why you didn't seize the ancient godly item. Quan Anrong could be heard saying, Master, you can't blame Wushuang entirely. He called Yi Xiao over, but Yi Xiao didn't keep his promise, and also, Anrong, don't speak. Tang Wushuang shouted in a low voice. Gui Qingren's gaze turned intent, and he slowly said, Wushuang, not only do you not have the drive to improve, but the women you teach are also lawless. Women shouldn't interrupt when men are talking. Quan Anrong's pretty face instantly collapsed. You two leave first. Tang Wushuang said gravely. Originally, I thought that by bringing the two of them by my side, they would be of some use. After all, their brains were very good, but I didn't expect that it would be like this. Mu Jia pulled Quan Anrong away quickly. Her husband's master was moody and very strange. He could even be so engrossed in reading novels. Master, they are not sensible, please don't be angry. Tang Wushuang fawned. Right now, in this kind of situation, he still needed his master's help. They don't know any better, and you don't know any better either. This woman has messed up your mind. Tang Wushuang hurriedly replied, Yes, 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 what teacher said is correct. Back then, I saved you on a whim and taught you some cultivation techniques. You performed well in the past few years, but this year has disappointed me. When you go out, don't say that you are my disciple. Tang Wushuang lowered his head and listened to his master's lecture. Gui Qingren let out a sigh of relief. The 9-devil punishment tower is in by family's hands? Hearing that master changed the topic, and it was an ancient godly item, Tang Wushuang felt that his hope was ignited again. As long as master is willing to make a move, then everything will go smoothly. That is indeed what the scout reported. After Wang Debao obtained the 9-devil punishment tower, he hurriedly rushed to Zijin City and went to Bai family. Gui Qingren paused for a moment. Right now, Bai family has an ancient godly item, Shao family also has one, but you don't. Could it be that you still want master to help you snatch it? Disciple doesn't dare. The rules of aristocratic families cannot be changed. If you want to squeeze in, you have to snatch it. Which family do you think is easy to snatch? Gui Qingren asked faintly. Is there a need to ask? It is definitely Shao family's Shenyuan sword. Shao family. Tang Wushuang said gravely. Since you know it is Shao family, why didn't you make a move? Gui Qingren asked back. Tang Wushuang still remembered their old relationship. After all, Shao Yi had helped him quite a bit back then. Now, it is really hard to stab him in the back. When one is in a great position, one will slay a god, not to mention an individual. Disciple has learned his lesson. The living room instantly quietened down, and Tang Wushuang didn't even dare to breathe loudly. I heard that everyone died last night, and all of them were sucked dry. Gui Qingren suddenly asked. And the news just spread out, and the 3 major powers in the north also went missing. Gui Qingren said calmly, seems like it was done by the person in the coffin. Master, you know about it? If I didn't guess wrongly, all of you fell into a trap. Gui Qingren laughed lightly, picked up the Snickers bar on the table, opened the packaging, and slowly chewed on it. Tang Wushuang turned pale with fright, and he instantly understood something. Master, compared to this person? We are about the same. Tang Wushuang's heart sunk. Master actually has such a high evaluation of this person, unimaginable. That's right, what is going on with that black robe? Gui Qingren continued to ask. Tang Wushuang told him the cause of the matter, and Gui Qingren fell into contemplation after listening to it. After a long time, Gui Qingren said faintly, this black robe isn't a big deal, the important point is the person behind him. But right now, everyone in the circle is saying that the black robe is the boss. Gui Qingren's gaze turned cold. I should have really killed all of those women of yours. Did your brain get clamped by women until you became stupid? You can't even see through this kind of scheme. But, Wushuang, let Master ask you a question. When have you seen Master make a move before? Tang Wushuang swallowed his saliva. Indeed, I have never seen Master make a move before. Never. A truly powerful person would not even spare a glance for ants. In his eyes, ants are merely dust. Goei Qingren said in a deep voice, as if he had met his match. Master is powerful like this. Tang Wushuang immediately bootlicked. As expected, it is useful. Goei Qingren leaned on the sofa, and with a deep gaze, he said faintly, Master has a feeling that the dispute between the North and the South was planned by this bar. Wushuang, investigate this bar properly. Disciple understands, Master, then who exactly is the boss of this bar? Goei Qingren let out a heavy sigh. If it isn't that boss, then it is that security guard. One of them is the mastermind behind the scenes. Alright, Master is going to rest now. Master, do you want Disciple to make arrangements for you? It is better for you to keep those useless women for yourself. Don't forget to help Master tie up that author. If he doesn't write, I will break his legs. Chapter 163. In another place in Zijin City, it had lost its former glory and seemed very gloomy. At night, the entire mansion would be pitch black like a haunted house. This was the once glorious Xiao Mansion. At this moment, Xiao Yi was sitting cross-legged in a secret room and cultivating. However, could his heart calm down? From his furrowed brows, it could be seen that he could not calm down. His beloved wife had died, but he did not even dare to hold a funeral. Her body was still sealed in ice. His son only knew that his mother had gone on a business trip. It had only been a few days and he was already clamoring for his mother to come back. However, could she come back? She could not. Opening his eyes, Xiao Yi's eyes were bloodshot. The battle with the black-robed man had caused his blood to flow in reverse and left behind a root that could not be removed. His beloved wife's death had damaged his heart and veins. With these kinds of injuries, there was no way he could recover and he would not be able to hold on for long. However, he was dead. What about them? What about the children? His former enemies would turn their spears to them. Thinking about this, blood flowed out from the corner of Xiao Yi's mouth. He was beyond cure. Dragging his heavy body, Xiao Yi opened the door to the secret room. However, the moment he walked out, his slightly bent back straightened. He swallowed his bitterness to prevent the women from worrying. Enduring the chaotic spirit energy in his body, Xiao Yi came to the main hall. Who would have thought that all the women would be gathered together as if they were having a meeting? Big brother Xiao, you came out of seclusion. Yuqi quickly went up to support him. Her stomach was already slightly bulging. Looking at Yuqi's stomach, Xiao Yi squeezed out a smile. Are you alright? Big brother Xiao, don't worry about us. We are fine. Yuqi supported Xiao Yi as they sat on the main seat. Shu Nan's face was calm as she walked to her husband's side and wanted to take his pulse. Xiao Yi knew what Shu Nan wanted to do, so he dodged. Not only was his seclusion useless, but his injuries had worsened. He did not want them to know about this. Even if they wanted to know, this was not the time. Shu Nan frowned and was very worried. The more her husband acted like this, the more serious his injuries were. What are you guys talking about? Xiao Yi tried to maintain a relaxed state. He had been in seclusion these past few days and did not know about the outside world. Yuqi smiled and said, nothing, it's just company matters. Do you need to do this to the company's matters? Just say it, no matter how big the matter is, it is already in the past. Xiao Yi laughed bitterly. If I can go back in time, I should learn from Wang Debao and return the money. He had thoroughly played out the phrase, losing one's wife and losing one's soldiers after losing one's wife. The girls looked at each other. Finally, Shu Nan told them what had happened these days. Wushuang is here to give money? Xiao Yi felt gratified. At least he hadn't made friends with this brother for nothing. Yu Qi didn't understand it that way. Brother Xiao, when Wushuang came that day, you were already in seclusion, and he looked a little absent-minded. I don't think it was as simple as giving him money. Maybe he's worried about my injuries. Wushuang isn't as bad as the other families. Xiao Yi's voice wasn't strong and was very weak. The women did not continue to speak, lest they made their husbands angry. They had to take it slow, because the next matter would be even more serious. After a long time, Xiao Yi listened to everything and didn't have much of a reaction. Instead, he let out a sigh of relief. The heavens wanted my Xiao family to die. The women didn't say anything. They didn't want to continue to provoke their men. Yu Qi said seriously, Brother Xiao, the Bai family might do something bad to us. We should plan ahead. Bai family? I'm afraid it's not just the Bai family. The Xian Yuan sword in my hand is a hot potato that everyone wants. Xiao Yi said coldly. If a tiger fell to the plains, it would be bullied by dogs. Brother Xiao, how about we hand over the sword and let them do whatever they want? Shu Nan's suggestion was probably what all the women were thinking. If the sword was gone, it was fine as long as the person was still alive. However, Xiao Yi didn't think so. If the sword was gone, it would only speed up the process of death. They didn't dare to do anything now because they didn't know how injured they were. Once they found out, they would probably attack. The only thing they could do now was to use the Xian Yuan sword to exchange for their lives. Don't worry, I have plans. Xiao Yi smiled. If the sword couldn't exchange for their safety, then he would exchange for his life. The women had blind trust in their husbands. They thought that Xiao Yi really had a good idea, so they were happy. Brother Xiao, let's eat first. Only when we are full will we have the strength to do things. Yu Qi said tenderly. Together with Shu Nan, she helped Xiao Yi to stand up. And Shu Nan took this opportunity to immediately check her husband's pulse. Her face that was originally still red immediately became pale like a piece of white paper. This kind of pulse is the sign of death. That's why the words I said just now were all lies. Brother Xiao is going to die. Xiao Yi took a look at Shu Nan. His meaning was very clear, he was telling her not to speak carelessly. The happy atmosphere on the dining table was no longer like it was in the past. Meanwhile, everyone in the bar started eating. Crayfish feast. Qingya was immediately stupefied. This is revenge for me for not serving him well during those few days. Not only is he a jealous king, he is also a miser. Wow, crayfish, Zizi loves it the most. Yi Zizi immediately wore her gloves. Yihua coughed lightly and hinted to Qingya. Qingya bit onto her lips and helplessly wore her gloves to peel the crayfish. After dipping the crayfish meat into the gravy, she placed it into her husband's bowl. Yihua was very satisfied. This crayfish meat is becoming more and more fragrant. Qin Yutong looked at the two of them. Just going out for a trip and they have already reconciled, this is really fast. Looking at big sister's expression, needless to say, brother-in-law definitely won. Brother-in-law, eat the crayfish. How could Qin Yutong let go of this time to flatter Yihua? If I want to have meat to eat, I have to flatter brother-in-law. Big brother, here, Zizi will peel the crayfish for you. Yi Zizi and Qin Yutong's mentality was not much different from each other. As for Yihua, he couldn't care so much about it. This is the treatment that a supreme overlord should enjoy, comfortable. Yi Zizi, go to school half a month later and study. Yihua said faintly while eating the crayfish meat and drinking the iced Sprite. You are letting an old monster go to school, aren't you afraid that she will eat all of the teachers in the school? As expected, upon hearing about going to school, Yi Zizi collapsed. Big brother, I don't want to go to school, I want to eat chicken. Yihua and Qin Ye's gaze immediately looked towards Qin Yutong, while Qin Yutong pretended not to hear anything and continued peeling the crayfish. Big sister, eat the crayfish. Brother-in-law, eat the crayfish. Qin Yutong. How can you lead a child astray? Qin Ye criticized harshly. It has only been a few hours, and you have already made an innocent and pure lowly degenerate to the point where she wants to eat chicken without even going to school. Qin Yutong raised up both of her hands and said with grievance, "Brother-in-law, big sister, you really can't blame me for this." After finished speaking, Qin Yutong even pulled onto Yi Zizi's skirt. "Big brother, big sister-in-law, you really can't blame big sister Qin. Big sister only told me how to operate the game, and also how to control the gun and snatch the airdrop. It was Zizi who got addicted to it." Yi Zizi said pitifully. "Pooh." Chapter 164. Qinya glared angrily at her little sister and shouted out, "Qin Yutong, it's fine if you degenerate yourself, but Zizi is still a child, and you are already bringing her to play games at such a young age? Are you going to bring her to the disco too?" Yi Zizi's eyes lit up at the mention of disco dancing. This was something new. However, she remained silent and pretended not to hear anything. Qin Yutong felt wronged to death. This little troublemaker, tricking me. And you are still pretending to be more pitiful than me. Sister, don't be angry. Eat some prawns to calm down. I have no appetite. Qinya said angrily. Thinking about how after my child was born, I was led astray by this aunt of mine, I felt that my head was a bit giddy. "Yi Hua, why don't you reprimand her?" Qinya was not happy with herself scolding Qinya, and she even wanted to pull Yi Hua along to scold Qinya's little sister. Yi Hua knew Yi Zizi very well, and he said, "I've already said it before, you will be responsible for yourself." Qin Yutong became happy. "I didn't expect that brother-in-law would stand on my side this time. I am so happy." "Yi Zizi, there's no room for discussion about the study," Yi Hua said faintly. The main thing was that he wanted to throw Yi Zizi into the school and properly get along with humans. Yi Hua wanted Yi Zizi to not always think about sucking on humans, and Yi Hua wanted Yi Zizi to know how to control herself. Just look at Wei Chang, he is able to control himself so well that he is even able to think. Seeing that his honor's attitude was so unyielding, Yi Zizi could only seek help from Qinya. "Sister-in-law, Zizi, are you listening to sister-in-law?" Qinya asked with a smile on her face. Yi Zizi nodded vigorously. She felt that there was hope. "Then listen to your eldest cousin." Yi Zizi was speechless. Even if he pretended to be pitiful, he wouldn't be able to escape his fate of going to school. The thought of sitting with a group of human children made him want to eat them all up. "Zizi, studying is pretty good. If you don't study, you won't even be able to find a job in the future." Qin Yutong patted onto Yi Zizi's head and began to add insult to injury. Yi Zizi pouted her small mouth, then began to peel the prawn pitifully. "At that time, I will make a big fuss." "Yi Zizi, don't think about useless things." Yi Hua still didn't know what Yi Zizi was thinking about and gave a warning. The family meeting ended here, and Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi breathed out a sigh of relief. They felt like when they were young, they had failed their exams, and were being lectured by their parents. "Qinya, didn't you say that you are going to take wedding photos? Hurry up and decide, in case you say that it doesn't look good when you pat me when I have a big stomach." Picking up the prawn meat that Qinya peeled, Yi Hua asked. Qinya pondered for a bit, then said, "Let's go to Sanya, the scenery there is pretty good. Furthermore, this time, we have only played for a day, so we will be able to play more if we go to Sanya." "Why are we going so far away?" Yi Hua asked while wrinkling his brows. "There is a seascape over there. Long-an City is located inland, and there is only a river there. This time, we can also bring Yutong and Zizi along with us." Qinya felt that this method was feasible. Qin Yutong didn't want to go out and was planning to be a female otaku. "Big sister, I am someone who wants to become a female streamer to earn money. Zizi also wants to eat chicken. No, you two have to go. One is the bridesmaid, and the other is the bridesmaid. It's decided. We'll set off tomorrow." The three of them exclaimed at the same time, "Tomorrow. That's right, I will treat you all to a vacation, and I will pay for all of the expenses." Qinya was very forthright. Since Yi Hua agreed to it yesterday, he followed Qingya's wishes. Meanwhile, Qing Yutong and Yizizi let out a heavy sigh. How good is it to stay at home? There is air conditioning, takeaway, and games. Why do we have to go out and suffer? After eating crayfish, Qingya joined the chicken dinner party. Yihua really didn't want to say anything. How did you teach them a lesson in the first place, and now, you are in cahoots with them? Where is your moral integrity? Because little Ali was online again. Yihua, who was bored, walked downstairs to see if the business had improved or not. However, when he went downstairs to take a look, other than his own attendants and security guards, there was no one else. How is this possible? Yihua waved his hand towards Wei Chang. Boss, what's the matter? Where is everyone? Yihua asked gravely. Wei Chang shook his head. I don't know either. A few months ago, this place was filled with people, and as long as I walked downstairs, all kinds of screams would be heard. But now, sighing, Yihua said, I am going out for a few days tomorrow. When I come back, I want to see this place filled with people. If not, I will deduct your salary. Boss, I still want to ask you for a raise in salary. Wei Chang said embarrassedly. So it turns out that finding a girlfriend costs so much, and now, I even have to pay more for gas. Yihua glared at Wei Chang. You still want to ask for a raise in salary? I am going to starve to death. Boss, there is a strong smell of stir-fried crayfish coming from your body. You still dare to talk back to me now? Subordinate doesn't dare. Wei Chang said hurriedly. Didn't I see that Zizi has returned? I am happy in my heart, so I am just being mischievous for a bit. How is the matter that I asked you to investigate? Yihua took out a cigarette and sat on the booth seat at the side. Wei Chang was slightly startled. I seem to have forgotten about it. I am still investigating. If there is really no other way, you can go and add fuel to the fire. The goal is to make them fight, the more miserable the better. Yes. After finished speaking, Yihua stood up and walked towards the outside. Boss, where are you going? Going outside to get some fresh air. Wei Chang replied. His honor even learned how to take a walk after a meal. Seems like it won't be long before he goes to square dance. Thinking about it was just thinking about it. Right now, he still had to quickly contact Death Mage. Yichen took out his phone and gave Death Mage a call. After thinking for a bit, he hung up the phone. Death Mage. Death Mage, who was currently playing the game, went into a daze and hurriedly replied, Master. His honor has ordered you to become a spy and investigate the movements of both the north and south. Wei Chang felt that this was exactly what his honor meant. After all, only a spy would be able to gather a large amount of information, and this was how all spy dramas played out. Spy. Death Mage felt that he shouldn't be called Death Mage anymore, because the quest was no longer related to death. That's right, report to me every day. Your subordinate will obey your orders. After cutting off the connection, Death Mage let out a deep sigh. The missions that his honor gave me are getting more and more difficult. How am I going to play games in the future? By yubi, the sound of a max-leveled cannon rang out beside him. Sun Fang was also fishing with her phone in her hand. That serious look on her face made it seem like she was taking revenge. That's right, she was taking revenge. Since she couldn't beat him, she would use what he was best at to defeat him. But, this fishing is too much of a scam. I don't even have money anymore, and even eating 3 meals a day is a problem for me. I might as well just return the house and get back the deposit. It is impossible for me to stay on the overpass, but going to the park is a pretty good choice. In any case, if I don't kill him in this lifetime, I swear that I am not a human. Death Mage immediately typed, then used his bone finger and tapped onto Sun Fang's shoulder. I have a way to earn money, do you want to do it? After looking at Death Mage's finger, Sun Fang's brows tightly wrinkled. Death Mage is definitely not doing anything good, but even if I don't have money, I can't defeat him. After thinking for a long time. I'll do it. GGG. Chapter 165. Death Mage already had a plan on how to complete his honors order. This is going to be a very different kind of spy job, and it is filled with blood and cruelty. I really like it. On the other side, Yihua took a stroll outside, and when he came back, there was an additional document bag in his hands. This document bag was sent over by Lai Gu, and inside the document bag was Yizizi's personal information. Right now, I don't even need to go and look for little Jiu. Lai Gu already has resources in his hands. Not bad, not bad, you are starting to have brains. Returning to the second floor, Yizizi could be heard shouting into the microphone, while Qingye and Qing Yutong were both silent. Auntie, you're such a noob. Little Ali's childish voice sounded from the headset. Yizizi was furious. Don't call me auntie. But you are Auntie Qing's little sister. If I don't call you auntie, what should I call you? Yizizi received 10,000 damage. Have you ever seen such a lowly auntie? Qingye and Qing Yutong smiled tenderly, but didn't say anything. When these two buffoons are placed together, they are simply capable of tearing apart the sky. Enduring the pain of being called auntie, Yizizi decided to defeat Ali with an overwhelming advantage in the game. Little Ali also seemed to know that compared to Yizizi, it was useless. Apart from these 4 people, the other 96 were suffering. Among them, more than 70 heads were split evenly between 2 people. There were also more than 20 who couldn't take it anymore and self-destructed. In the end, as soon as these 2 accounts appeared, all sorts of explosions would appear on the screen. This game couldn't be played anymore. When faced with 2 immortals, you could only kneel. I didn't expect that Yizizi would be so powerful. In the beginning, she was still very unfamiliar with the game, and after a few rounds, it was as if Yizizi was cheating. In a certain live stream room, there were countless bullet screens. Host, aren't you the Immortal Slayer King? Now that there are 2 celestial beings, streamer Celestial Bane, please. Also begging streamer Celestial Bane. Host, please give the world a clean PUBG. On the screen, the host clutched his stomach with a pained expression. I'm really not in the best condition today. I have a stomachache. I'll go offline first. After saying that, the stream went dark. Celestial Bane? Cook me when the time comes. That was a revolver monster, and now there was a crossbow monster. Should I consider switching professions? The live stream was in chaos. The host actually ran away. Everyone, stop scolding the host. Maybe the host is really not feeling well? I'd be a fool to believe him. 2 deities destroyed the balance of the game, and this streamer actually pretended to have a stomachache. Why don't you just say that you're on your period? I heard that my goddess, Yutong, is going to start a live stream and play PUBG. I'm going to watch my goddess. What's there to watch? Even Jade Dynasty can't do it without some skill. Let's go, let's go. I might as well watch the old woman play games. Unsubscribe, unsubscribe. Sorry for disturbing you. Looking at the bullet screen in the live stream room, the streamer felt very hurt. You all are asking too much. Do you think that Jade Dynasty is that easy? I'm done for. I'm done for. However, right now, little Ali and Yizizi were killing each other in the game. Whoever didn't get a headshot would lose. In the end, it was all headshots. How the F***ck was he going to let people play? So what if he had a cheat? This was too much of a bully. The game company immediately checked and found that these 2 accounts were perfectly normal. Could it be that the latest cheat had appeared and all the technicians were called to work overtime? In the first place, there was no cheat, so how was it possible for them to check? In the end, those technicians didn't return home for an entire month, and they didn't even know that they were cuckolded. Yihua stood behind Yizizi and watched as she cheated with her instincts. However, he didn't expect that Ali would actually be able to fight to a draw with Yizizi. This little Ali is rather mysterious. Northwest Desert, this place was completely uninhabited. If an ordinary person were to walk on this desert, they would die within a few days and become the food of vultures. Under the moonlight, two people walked onto this desert. They wore cloaks and walked forward while bending their bodies. After a long time, the two people stopped their footsteps. One of them formed a seal with both hands, and a faint water ripple appeared in front of his body. Soon after, the two people stepped into the water ripple, and the desert returned to peace once again. The two people that stepped into the desert took off their cloaks and took a deep breath. One of them smiled and said, "The air in our voidless realm is still the best, the air in the secular world is poisonous." Of course, this voidless realm is under the protection of the ancient Eastern Emperor. To be able to become a member of Voidless Realm is also a supreme honor. That's right, if we are able to see the Empress once, we would have no regrets in this life. Soon after, the two people looked towards the tallest existence within the mountains, and their gazes were filled with endless worship and reverence. Soon after, the two people slowly kneeled down and bowed towards that person to show their respect. Looking at the entire Voidless Realm, it seemed as if the entire Voidless Realm was sitting above the layer of clouds, and the mountains were even floating above the layer of clouds. All of the buildings were located at the edge of the mountains, and on top of every mountain, there was a majestic palace, which symbolized the authority of the Voidless Realm. However, on the highest mountain peak, there was a majestic palace. The entire palace was engraved with majestic divine dragons, and each of the 8 dragons coiled around a white jade stone pillar. The 8 dragons had glaring eyes and sharp claws, scales and beards on their bodies, and the dragons had the power to uproot the mountains and rivers. In the sky above the palace, there was actually a waterfall, and the sound of the waterfall was high and low, just like the melody of a zither. Green trees intertwined with each other, and the chirping of cicadas and drums could be heard. It was as if one was at this place, quietly listening to the clear melody of a flowing spring and the green breeze of an ancient pagoda tree. The waterfall flowed along the channel that was dug out and flowed down the mountain, and just happened to fall onto the mountain below. The waterfall flowed into the layer of clouds, disappearing without a trace. At this moment, there were people gathering in the palaces of the various mountains. 8 elders landed in front of this majestic palace, then bowed their bodies and waited. In front of the palace stood 4 golden-robed and silver-armored imperial guards, and their entire bodies were emitting out faint killing intent. After a long time, one of the guards shouted out, "Enter." The 8 elders slightly straightened their bodies and walked into the palace. On the throne at the center of the palace, a woman with extraordinary aura could be seen sitting on it. On her head was a dragon phoenix golden crown, and her appearance was picturesque. Although her pair of eyes were beautiful, there was a layer of frost on them. The dragon-patterned purple robe that was worn on her body made the cold aura that she was emitting rise to a peak. This was a woman that even men would not be able to raise their heads. Her name was Donghuang Baiji. "Subordinates kowtow to your majesty." The 8 elders bowed and greeted. Donghuang Baiji, who was sitting on the throne, had a calm expression on her face, and not a single ripple could be seen on her face. Donghuang Baiji slowly raised her hand. The 8 elders stood up and stood on both sides of the palace. "Yuanda, what is the matter that requires us to discuss in the middle of the night?" Donghuang Baiji asked faintly. A relatively short and small elder stood out, then cupped his hands and said, "Your Majesty, a demon has appeared in the secular world. That 9 demons punishing tower cannot be considered to be a demon." Donghuang Baiji said faintly, seemingly not placing the matter in her eyes at all. Chapter 166. Seeing that the Empress didn't say anything, Yuanda continued to speak. The disciples who just returned from the secular world reported that over 10,000 people had died in the fight for the ancient godly item this time, and there were still 1,000 people who went missing. Those several 10,000 people had all been sucked into dried corpses, and this must have been done by the coffin person. Donghuang Baiji took a faint glance at Yuanda, then said slowly, "So what?" Yuanda was shocked and quickly lowered his head. Not to mention that aristocratic families will be able to deal with this matter. This matter happened in the south, and it is not under our jurisdiction. If you have anything to say, just say it directly, don't beat around the bush. Dong Huang Baiji said coldly. She is already so old and cunning, could it be that she still doesn't know how to deal with this matter? It was necessary to make such a big fuss. The 8 subordinates lowered their heads and looked at each other, as if they had already discussed this beforehand. All of them knelt on the ground and said in unison, "We hope that your majesty will think for the sake of the Donghuang bloodline and give birth to a boy as soon as possible to inherit the Donghuang's inheritance." Donghuang Baiji did not get angry. Instead, she laughed. "I presume that the 2 of you have already found a husband for this empress." Donghuang Baiji laughed lightly. However, her eyes were emitting out fierce hostility. Among the 8 people, a slightly plump old man walked out. His name was Xing Han, and the beard on his chin was about to fall to the ground. He could even be used as a broom. "Your Majesty, the inheritance of the bloodline is the law of the heavens, not to mention the bloodline of the Eastern Emperor. The bloodline of Nuwa is nowhere to be found, and the ancient bloodline is even rarer. Although the other 2 families are not worthy of the surname Eastern Emperor, as long as your Majesty gives birth to a male child and inherits the inheritance of the Eastern Emperor, the Eastern Emperor clan will once again achieve glory." As he spoke, Xing Han knelt down again. When the others saw Xing Han kneeling down, they also knelt down. Donghuang Baiji, who was sitting on the throne, did not say anything. Xing Han continued, "The aristocratic families in the north are controlled by us, Donghuang, while the aristocratic families in the south are controlled by the Ji family. Although the Ying family lives in the south, they don't care about worldly affairs. I feel that the Ying family is the best choice." After a short pause, Xing Han continued, "The second son of the Ying family, Ying Kongshi, is talented and virtuous. He's also quite handsome. He's the best candidate for the Empress's husband." "Are you done?" Donghuang Baiji asked faintly. "Empress. All of you can leave." Donghuang Baiji waved her hand and stood up. Yuanda immediately rushed out. "This subordinate has something to report. It's about Long and City's Qing Bar." Donghuang Baiji's body trembled, and in an instant, all sorts of emotions appeared on her face. The 8 subordinates of Donghuang Baiji had their heads lowered in hesitation, and they did not notice the complicated changes that were happening to Donghuang Baiji. "A small leisure bar is of no importance to me." Donghuang Baiji placed her hands behind her back and prepared to leave. Yuanda hurriedly shouted out, "Your Majesty, the conflict between the north and the south this time was caused by this leisure bar's owner. His name is Yihua." "So he is called Yihua. This cruel man was called Yihua." Because his back was turned, the 8 subordinates couldn't see his angry and ferocious face. However, everyone else was looking at Yuanda. Why did he bring such a small matter up? Yuanda ignored him and continued, "This man has a wife. Her name is Qinya, and she is pregnant." Every single word that Yuanda said was like a sharp blade, stabbing into the weakest part of Donghuang Baiji's heart. He had a wife. With child. Then what does that make me? Donghuang Baiji's memories instantly returned to 3 years ago. The situation on that day was more or less the same as today, just that, back then, her father was sitting on the throne, and on the second day, she ran away from the throne, and on the second day, she met with the owner of the leisure bar. She, who was in an extremely bad mood, was convinced by the owner of the leisure bar and ended up having sex with the owner of the bar. But when he heard that it was his first time, he felt a little better. He even said that he wouldn't touch the same woman twice and told him not to look for him. At that time, he laughed. Did he really think he was a god? He was the most narcissistic person he had ever met. After playing around in the secular world for half a month, Yihua returned to Voidless Realm. Yihua didn't expect that her father would fall sick, and at that time, she was rather worried. However, the sage doctor who was taking a look at her father's illness was actually able to tell that she was pregnant. How is this possible? However, after the diagnosis, she was dumbfounded. She was really pregnant. She didn't even need to think to know whose child it was. At that time, her father flew into a rage, and his illness worsened. Everyone advised her to abort the child. This was a disgrace to the Donghuang bloodline. However, he could not bear to do so. This was a life. After resisting for a month, she couldn't take it anymore, and running away was the only choice she had. But where could she run to? At that time, there was only one place that appeared in her mind, and that was leisure bar. When she was at that time, she was still thinking about some beautiful things. Although it was an accident, she was able to get to know the other half of her life. However, she never expected that she would wait day after day. Every night, she would see leisure bar closing its doors. She would even raise her head to look at the room on the second floor where the lights were still on. Why is it that when you are just a few meters away from me, you aren't willing to come down and take a look at me? Disappointment after disappointment caused her heart to become disheartened. After half a month, when she returned, her father had already left. That day was the darkest day of her life. It was as if she felt that the entire world was abandoning her, and she even thought of committing suicide to end her life. However, when she thought about her child, she endured it. Her child looked a lot like him. Every time she saw her daughter, she would think of that heartless man. What was laughable was that, right now, he had married a woman and was even pregnant. To only touch the same woman once, how laughable was that? To think that I actually believed it. Why were you so heartless when I was pregnant, but you were able to marry this woman? Yuanda. Donghuang Baiji called out faintly, just that. Her tone was so oppressive that it made people tremble in fear. Subordinate is here. Regarding the matter of going to Ying family to propose marriage, I'll leave it to you. I'll marry her. After finished speaking, Donghuang Baiji left with her hands behind her back. The 7 people in the palace still hadn't reacted to what just happened, and only Yuanda let out a sigh of relief. It's finally settled. Hey, what's going on? Why did Her Majesty suddenly agree to it? Xing Han walked over and asked curiously. Yuanda laughed lightly. Her Majesty has been thinking about a person. As long as that person is removed from her mind, there wouldn't be anything for her to think about anymore. The 7 people went into a daze and began to admire Yuanda. They didn't expect that Yuanda would be able to find out about what happened back then. Everyone, keep this matter a secret. It concerns the reputation of the Donghuang family. Yuanda said with a smile, then left the palace with everyone else. Donghuang Baiji didn't return to her room. She sat in the garden and stared blankly at the stars in the sky. Her pair of delicate hands were clenched so tightly that her nails had pierced into her palms, causing her palms to be devoid of blood. After a long while, Donghuang Baiji walked towards her daughter's room. Before she even got close to her daughter's room, she could hear the sound of someone tapping on a keyboard. Donghuang Baiji's expression immediately became cold as she fiercely pushed open the door and entered the room. Donghuang Li, who was currently playing a game, was startled. She hurriedly turned off her computer, then lowered her head and stood obediently at the side. Kneel down. Donghuang Li took down her keyboard, then with a plop sound, knelt down onto the keyboard. I feel that my mother is acting rather abnormally today. I have to be a bit more careful. Donghuang Baiji walked towards the front of the computer and stretched out her palm. Noiselessly, the monitor and the computer turned into dust and floated out of the window. Donghuang Li looked at the screen stupidly. This is the only thing that I have that can come into contact with the outside world, and my mother destroyed it. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.